Hello, folks. Welcome to Scratch the Surface. I'm EJ Scott. Today, my guest is Tyler Bates. Tyler Bates is a composer and a musician. That might be redundant, but he is a current member of the band Marilyn Manson, and he most recently composed the score for Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2. He's a big deal. As far as like musical scores go, Tyler's up there. He's a big deal. Very in demand. I was lucky to get him. Before I get into what we talked about, I want to do a plug for myself. Follow me on Twitter at EJ Scott and the podcast at EJ Podcast. I have a website, ejscott.com. Instagram, EJScott1106. I'm raising money for charity. Go to crowdrise.com/7on7. That's the number 7 on the number 7. And I have a documentary called Running Blind. It is on Amazon, iTunes, and Google Play, digital download for only $2 or $3. It's about me running 12 marathons in 12 states in 12 months in 2012. Blindfolded because I'm going blind and from an eye disease called choroideremia, and I'm legally blind now, and I'm always trying to raise money and awareness for the cause. And it's a well-done documentary made by a friend of mine named Ryan Suffern, and you'd spend $2 or $3 on a good cause, and if you watch it, you'll be glad you did. So if you go check that out, I'd appreciate it. Thank you very much. Okay, so Tyler Bates. I met Tyler only a couple weeks before this podcast, and we talked a little bit at this bar, and he was a nice guy, and I was like, I bet he's an interesting guy, so I invited him on my podcast, and he said yes. And I know he's real particular about interviews he does, and particularly podcasts. So I'm grateful that he came over. He's a busy guy, and it was good of him to spend time with me. And he's a real interesting dude. We talked about lots of things. We talked about a house he grew up in that was haunted. We talked about the unfortunate death of his mother, pairing up with Marilyn Manson, working with guys like James Gunn on these scores, how he got into music and studied it, and playing in bands and all that type of stuff. Having a family of his own now. But the ghost stories were pretty interesting that he was telling. He's an interesting guy. He's a real artist when it comes to music and caring about the work. I really enjoyed talking with him. His birthday was only a few days later. I hope you will enjoy my talk as well from May 30th, 2017. This is Tyler Bates. All set?
I think so. Just cool.
Yeah.
See what you have to ask me.
All right. Hi, Tyler.
It's good to see you, EJ.
Good to see you. We first met, a few weeks ago at a bar for a gathering of people that worked on Punisher, the upcoming Punisher series.
Yes, sir.
And it was a little dark. My eyes aren't so great. So I recognized you, though, when you came in, not from Marilyn Manson or anything, but I saw you probably like the night before at the Guardians premiere.
Yeah, that's probably a better place for you to recognize me from.
Yeah. And I was like, oh, I saw that guy last night. And then you go, hi. And then you saw my girlfriend, and you introduced yourself to her and stuff. And then you said, this is Manson. And I go, Manson? I was like, did I hear that right? And then you were with Marilyn Manson. And I was like, wow, that just tripped me out. It took me like a second to focus on it. And I was like, man, like Marilyn?
Well, there's this whole thing, right? So we saw each other at the Guardians premiere.
Yeah.
Next night, we actually meet, and Steve Lightfoot, showrunner for The Punisher,
yep,
he also worked on Hannibal, to which Marilyn Manson, is a huge fan.
Okay.
And had spoken to me about Hannibal forever. And so when he knew I was working on Punisher, he's like, oh my God, that's great. That's got to be a great show. That guy's great. And then, well, it's funny. Now that we're doing this interview, I guess I can't comment further on some things because I don't want to spoil anything.
Of course.
But so at any rate, there was cause for Manson to want to meet Steve, and Steve was throwing this little rap party for all the West Coast writers and editors. And so I figured, all right. And he said, hey, come by. I said, all right, I'll bring Manson because we were supposed to record that night. And I thought it would be a good, nice respite from the studio where I spend every waking hour of my life.
You're right. I bet.
Indeed.
And did you guys have fun that night? Did you have a good time?
Strangely enough, it turned out to be fun because I had no idea that it was a sports bar. So just think about it.
It wasn't a fancy bar.
Get Manson to go to this thing, and it turns out that it's a sports bar with a million TV screens all over the place, which is kind of trippy for him. Me, myself, I love sports, so I'm cool with it. But actually, that ended up in probably what could have been the most dangerous reality cooking show of all time at the end of that night, because we went back to his house with our friend Paul, who also plays in the band, and Manson and I cooked.
What'd you cook?
Food. Well, I wanted to get something to eat because we hadn't had dinner. So
you didn't want the bar food?
No, I'd say, I kept waiting because we were going to go to a restaurant and meet Paul.
Oh, okay.
But Manson was having so much fun with everybody at the party that it just, all of a sudden, it turned out to be like 11:30, 11:45. And I'm like, we got to get something to eat. I'm dying. So he didn't want to deal with going to a restaurant and being seen and stuff. So it's one of these deals like, I have some food back at my house we can cook. I'm like, okay, great. I have no idea what to expect. And it was crazy. There were all I know is there were skillets with oil and fire and sharp knives. And we were both cooking like that. I've been around the guy enough to not be too concerned about the flying knives and all that stuff. So I should be, perhaps.
Is he a good cook? Are you a good cook? Are you guys good?
I'm decent, and this was so haphazard the way it was going. I'm like, there's just no way this is going to work out. So he's like, I'm telling you, cinnamon in this burger is going to be incredible. And so Paul was totally skeptical. He should have just filmed it while he was watching us cook. And I'm cooking this chicken because Manson doesn't know how to cook chicken. And at the end, we split everything that we made. And mine was good, but that burger was delicious. It was
really
incredible. Yeah.
The cinnamon, you agree with the cinnamon?
I do. I wouldn't say every time, but it was really, really good. It was a cheeseburger. It had cinnamon and onions, well, chives. He didn't really know what they were, but he cut them up anyway and threw them in there. It was good, though.
That's pretty cool.
It was pretty funny. I mean, most people might get the wrong idea about his persona. There are a few sides to it. There's no doubt, but we hang. It's a lot of laughs.
Well, it sounds like me when I was like a teenager with my friends. We went out drinking, and then we'd cook something at midnight or something like that.
Yes.
And maybe it turns out, maybe it doesn't.
This was that, and it was definitely hazardous kitchen behavior, but it was fun.
Yeah.
Yeah, and delicious.
And you guys are just a bunch of single dudes, right?
No.
Oh, you're not?
I'm married. I have a wife and 2 daughters. Yeah.
Oh, okay. That wasn't in any of the information that I in my research of you.
Well, until this very moment, I try and keep my private life private.
Private.
But because I'm
going to change that.
Yeah. Well, there are people kind of coming at me from all angles now that I'm out touring with Manson, as I can, and then some of these movies I'm working on, people are paying attention to those, so they want to get to you sometimes, but it's cool. I'm really glad to be part of so many things people are interested in right now.
Yeah, it's pretty exciting.
It's it's surreal because I don't really see it, the way other people see it, because
you're too close to it.
I don't ever have time to watch live TV. until football season. Then I watch football.
Okay, who's your team?
This is a long story, but the Tennessee Titans are my favorite team.
Okay, interesting.
And once again, I'm going down for the opening home game against the Raiders, and a good friend of mine's a Raiders fan, so we've done that twice.
Oh, you go together. You guys get along, and you go together.
Yeah, well, he's in the business. He mixes. He's a film mixer, and we don't duke it out. But finally, this game, right? This opening season game is going to be the first opening season game that I think we could both actually expect something serious, because our teams have been horrible for a long time.
Right.
But
yeah, I'll be honest. I don't hear a lot about the Tennessee Titans.
No, most people, like the average person who doesn't follow football doesn't even know they have a team. Yeah. But no, I actually, I'm such a fan that years ago, right? So years ago, I was at a Grammy party with my wife, and there's all kinds of famous people there. And, someone from the record company asked me if there was anyone there I wanted to meet, and I'm really kind of not the guy who wants to meet people, whatever, celebrities. I don't care. I meet, all kinds of people anyway. So I'm looking around. I'm like, wait a second, that guy in the windbreaker over there, he looks familiar. And they're like, oh no, he's not in the business. He's a football player. I'm like, that's right. That's Antonio Holmes. He just caught the winning touchdown of the Super Bowl. This was years ago when the Steelers beat the Cardinals. So I'm like, I want to meet him. So then, they bring him over, and it's so embarrassing to be introduced to someone like that as a composer. It's like, first off, it sounds so kind of lame. I don't know why, but
because his job's more physical.
It's just
and yours
awesome.
Is the opposite.
And then they have to describe me by what I've worked on, because I'm already a nobody, right? So like, Santonio, this is Tyler Bates. He writes music for movies. He did like 300, and he just stopped the guy right there, and he's just, bro, you did 300? I'm like, yeah. He's, oh my God, we rolled out to your music every home game this season. And they won the Super Bowl, right? I'm like, damn, why do my Titans not roll out to music? And I said, I should write them a theme.
Yeah,
and so a few years go by, maybe 3-4 years, and then I was on the road with Manson, and I love the playing part, but I'm bored with the waiting, because at home, I'm in my studio, I write and produce like several minutes of music every day.
Yeah.
To the point where I think I have a problem, because it's sort of like I don't know what to do with myself.
Yeah.
And when I'm on the road, there's that PTSD where I kind of don't know what to do, because I don't really have a deadline, and
you don't have other hobbies?
No.
Not really.
Watching football, right? So anyway, I called my agent. I said, hey, can you by chance get a number for somebody at the Tennessee Titans? I want to talk to them about writing a theme for them, And so it took a while, but then literally like a couple months later, I get a phone call from this guy who's like their head marketing guy, and he was super psyched to call me, I guess he was a big fan of some of the stuff I've been working on. And I'm like, calm down, dude. You work with all these superstar athletes, So anyway, he said, we'd be honored if you'd write a theme for us. We'd love that.
Wow.
And I said, that would be great. And he said, and we'll have you down like as a special guest. Would you like that? Like run out with the team, stab the sword of honor into the 50-yard line. I'm like, hell yeah, I'd love that.
Whoa, that's cool.
So anyway, I write the theme. They like the theme. He calls me back. He says, yeah, I played it for the team. They love it, blah, blah, blah. We'd love to have you down as a special guest of honor. But I did some reading, and from what I understand, you're an accomplished guitarist. I said, well, it depends who you ask. But yes. And he said, well, how about come down and play our national anthem?
Whoa.
That was just like somebody hit me in the face with a baseball bat, because it was like, okay, no, I never would have asked to do that, because that is scary as hell.
Yeah.
But that's like bell you can't unring in your entire life, right? Yeah. That would follow me around like a ghost.
And you've never done it before?
Never. So anyway, he gave me the date, and it was like this was a year and a half ago, Thanksgiving. And so the Titans were playing the Raiders. And so I figured, all right, I'm not going to cheat on the song. Usually guitar players will play it in the key of E, and then they'll have a whammy bar. So if they get even anywhere near a mistake, they can just dive bomb all the strings and pick it up wherever they feel like it. But I'd been to games there, and they're so reverent about the national anthem. I figured, all right, I'm gonna learn to play this thing in the key of F major as it was originally composed, which is not a friendly guitar key. So I did, and I went down there, and my friend Frankie went down there with me and a couple other friends. And I had just become friends with one of my guitar heroes who lives in Nashville, Adrian Ballou. And so it turns out he came to dinner with my family and friends and I the night before, and then he came to the game, and so I got him tickets to be in our box, right? So the game starts at noon. It's drizzling out pretty good, and we're all in there, and at 11:52, Adrian shows up, and he's in his Titans jersey, and he's all excited, and he's like, oh, man, this is going to be so great. And then this woman follows him in the door, like just a second later. It's 11:53. She's like, Tyler, are you ready? And I'm thinking, oh, my God, now's the time. I just had my last meal, right? So I'm walking the gallows now. So
do you envision how it's going to go? Like, if you screw up, people are gonna boo or
oh my God,
or applaud or whatever. Did you have any envisioning of that?
I don't even know. It was so surreal. So she's leading me through the stadium, and my friend Frankie and also my friend Marty Ross, he was there, and so they came with me, right? Mm-hmm. So we walked through the stadium, outside, up through the rain, and then onto this huge stage. At one end of the field is above one of the end zones, and I pulled the guitar out of the case because it was up there, and I checked the tuning and flicked off the standby switch on my amp, and I just did a and then right then, ladies and gentlemen, they just introduced me. So there's like zero mental prep time. You'd think maybe I'd get one rep to go through the song just to remember it, but nonetheless, I just said, okay, I guess I'm jumping out of the plane right now. And I went into it, and it was loud as hell. It was just me, Marshall amp.
And it's like reverberating.
Oh, yeah.
Right?
65,000 people in the stadium. And I had Schecter had made me a Telecaster model guitar with a Tennessee Titans logo on it. So I was playing that in my jersey. And so I start playing, and then I look up and I see the Jumbotron at the opposite end of the field, and it's massive, and it's me, like Godzilla size. And I looked down as quickly as I could, and that freaked me out. And I just kept going, and I tried to, I just recalibrated, I was fine. And then I looked up again, and it's the team in their uniforms, hands on their hearts, and then I glanced once again, it's the military. And I'm like, this is so weird. And they're standing there while I'm playing, So it's just, it had to be one of the most out of this world experiences. It was like I was in another sphere. And then it was over. They blew off a ton of fireworks, and I was just like, oh my God, I can't believe I just did that. And I got through it. And so I went back to the box to get ready for the game. And Adrian Ballou, because I'm always like revising everything I do in my brain, sure. And I am never happy with anything. Like, oh, why did I do that? Or, man, I should have landed that chord there. It would have been so much more effective. Why didn't I do that? Mm-hmm. And movie score or whatever.
Sure.
But when it's too late, all that information becomes very apparent. So anyway, I'm already thinking, God, I could have played that better. But it was pretty cool. And I get back to the box, and Adrian is there, and he just gives me this big bear hug, and he's like, man, I could never have done that. That was awesome. And he says, I know you're like me. You're thinking about it. He says, don't think about it. It was beautiful. It was amazing. Let's have fun.
Were you able to enjoy the moment while doing it at all?
No.
No.
No, it's only the immediately after, like I got through it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Not that it is anywhere near what it would be like for a woman to give birth.
Right.
But it's probably immediately after. It's a little more enjoyable than while you're pushing.
Yeah, sure.
That's kind of how it felt.
Yeah. What if she gave birth in front of tens of thousands of people on a Jumbotron?
I'm sure someone's going to at some point. They're in the live, Facebook
exactly.
broadcast or whatever.
How many times did you practice the song beforehand?
You mean
I know you missed your opportunity right before, but like leading up to
Oh, I'm sure I played it a couple hundred times.
So you were pretty comfortable doing it.
I'm just not comfortable in that setting. Now, the funny thing is, I've gone out, say, playing shows with Manson.
Yeah.
I'll be on the side of the stage before we go out, and I'll see 50,000 people.
Yeah.
No problem.
No problem.
My heart rate doesn't even go up, other than, that I'm ready to hit something,
Right.
That kind of thing. But it's more like a fun adrenaline, not like an, oh, damn, here it goes.
And you're with your friends on stage. Too.
Absolutely.
That makes things easier than just you.
Yeah.
Probably.
Of course. And then, I have full confidence in us as a band. Manson, he always provides that wild card element. There's always something breaking and flying, so it's you got to watch out, or else you're going to get hurt in that show.
You should wear one of those football helmets.
I know, right?
Some padding.
I know. But fortunately, we have Gil Sharon on drums, and Gil is phenomenal, and he's always on point. So as long as he's on point, we're all on point.
Okay.
Yeah.
He's the backbone.
Yeah, he's incredible. So he definitely helps direct traffic during the show.
So how do you wind down from something like what you did with the Star Spangled Banner?
Oh my God, you try and forget it. So just drank a lot of beer.
Yeah.
And you know what? It was so great to have my friends with me, and my friend Marty is a lifer, guitar player, super talented, and obviously Adrian Blue. So they were celebrating, with me. So it just made me totally let go of the whole thing and say, well, that was interesting. It was cool. I mean, I didn't screw it up or anything. It's just, like I always feel like I could do anything better.
Sure.
And I gotta sometimes just allow it to be what it is and move on.
Have you ever had an instant where you're like, I did it. That's exactly what I wanted, and it's perfect as it is. Just once. Ever have it? Just once. That's it. I did it.
Birth of my daughters.
Oh yeah.
The two of them. Yeah.
Oh, that's
but
nice.
There are a couple things I haven't screwed up yet. So no, I mean, if what you're talking about is in the moment, I usually fare pretty well. I mean,
are you proud of your work? Do you step back from it and go, I'm pretty proud of this? And
I am. I give everything that I do, everything I have. And, sometimes you're at 110%, sometimes you're at 60%, depending on how taxing the schedule is and your life is and your health is and, whatever the circumstances are. But I definitely give everything every project I'm on, I give it everything I have. And to absolutely ensure that the quality of my work is preserved or is reaching the level I'm aspiring to. I make sure that I have a great team of people to help me get it there in all phases of production, because there's writing, and then there is the programming and rewriting, because for huge movies the picture's changing pretty much daily, and then there's visual
up until like a week before release, right?
Yeah, till after they pry the score out of my hands. And then, visual effects also, as they develop, they give you, as a composer, more information that you are going to need to address, because we start off with green screen. And, of course, the director knows, he sees everything. Like James Gunn, he sees it all. He sees the movie when he writes it.
Yeah.
So he knows what's happening everywhere. Whereas me, even though I've been familiar with the script by the time I get a chance to really work on the film itself, I'm not clear on what some of the images are, because I don't have access to all of the key art, or at least understanding what's what. Because when you see one green screen after the next, you're not sure, even when you access the secure server, what artwork belongs where.
Right.
But so anyway, nonetheless, picture changes, things tighten up, or they change the sequence of events, and music needs to be redrafted or addressed accordingly, and that's just part of the gig. So you're talking about running marathons every time.
Yeah, well, I know about that. I've run a bunch of marathons.
Okay, well, that makes one of us. I'm talking figuratively only.
I'm more literal there. But how did you get hooked up with like James Gunn? I know you did Slither. Mm-hmm. You did Super, and I think even like a short. There was even a short.
Oh, there were a number of those. PG porn, yeah. As a matter of fact, at the time those started hitting my IMDb page, my agent thought that somebody hacked into my IMDb page
and
put up all these porn titles. But James and I met after I finished Dawn of the Dead. He wrote Dawn of the Dead. Obviously, Zack Snyder directed it, but
great movie.
Yeah, I really enjoyed that. And James asked me to do Slither, and that's an awesome movie. I love that movie, and his writing is so interesting and unique. His dialogue style is so unique. I mean, it's just it's like David Mamet or David Lynch or something. It's very distinct. So it makes it fun as a composer to be part of film that the directors with such a unique signature are part of or creating, actually. And Slither was a lot of fun. And then we did a slew of PG porns. And then we didn't do the Belko Experiment because he wrote it back then. It was too dark to do at the time. But then we did Super. And Super was violent as hell.
Yeah.
Not dark in the same way, but it was violent.
Comedically dark.
Oh my God, it was crazy dark. So we did those, and in Super, we had our first experience creating music for him to film to, and so the ending of the film was something I had written to Rainn Wilson's dialogue. We had Rainn in the studio. He basically, what would we say is appropriate, because it's like an epilogue, it's like a narrative monologue? Yeah, kind of like a monologue. So we had him lay that out just dry. Mm-hmm. And it was, the cadence of it was kind of like a spoken word type thing, and it basically cued me exactly as to what I should do musically. So I had that in my mind, in my brain, but I didn't think that James wanted to shoot it toward the very beginning of the schedule. So I hadn't knocked out the demo until he called the night before they were filming, and he's like, dude, do you have that sketch? And I'm like, I'm like, can I call you in about 45 minutes? So so I sketched out something pretty crude, and I still needed to supplement the sketch with some live instruments. So I called James. He's on the phone, and I'm playing while the phone's, in my shoulder, and start playing, and I had the dialogue playing so he could hear it in context. And he's like, that sounds nothing like I imagined. He's like, keep going. So I'm like, all right, just hang on. And so I keep playing. He's like, I think I see where you're going with this. I think this is good. He says, I like this. I think we should go this route. I'm like, okay, good, because that's the only idea I have.
Do you get nervous when he's like, I don't know, this wasn't what I was thinking? Do you just start going, oh shit, I didn't do it right? Or do you just go, no, I have confidence in it, just keep listening?
Well, in that case, I urged him to keep listening, and that was that. I don't try and sell a director on an idea they don't feel. Mm-hmm. Like if they're not feeling it, I don't say just live with it for a while, because I
sleep on it.
We may, I've learned it's exhausting, but I think that you have to provide a director with other options, other looks.
Sure.
So if they want to explore the approach differently to a scene, even just the full emotional aspect of it, then we try and do a really good job of drafting that and capturing exactly what it is they're after, and not doing like kind of a half-assed job so that they defer to your original idea. Mm-hmm. Try and knock it out of the park. So if it works, then it's a good idea. So we discovered something by pushing ourselves further. oftentimes we do come back to one of the first or second sketches that were in the mix. But I guess in that sense, there's more confidence that that's the approach that we collectively want to take. But yeah, you're always a little nervous when you preview music for anybody.
Yeah.
And you hear it differently and see it differently as soon as you play it for someone. It's really interesting. And I think that's why a lot of people will screen their movie for a few friends, right, or will play some of our music to people. It's not because we're looking for the thumbs up necessarily. It's just that you see it and experience it differently in an audience. I guess maybe you feel someone's vibe or their emotions.
When you're working with somebody you've never worked with before, like Gunn you've worked with now several times, Zack Snyder several times, stuff like that. Is there like a new does the chemistry different with that person? Is there an approach to it different? Do you approach that new person differently than you might James Gunn?
It's interesting. James, and rightfully so, with every movie, he absolutely wants to best his previous work. And his expectations then are greater on everyone around him. So, a victory lap, say for like a Guardians 3, would not be appropriate. We have to figure out a way to make that the best movie of the series, right?
Yeah.
And the score also needs to be the best. Now, at this point, there have been so many iterations of the existing themes, created. At least we have a beginning point for our conversation, because the language of what the Guardians music has been established, but we're still, creating new phrases. Let's just put it that way. So, yeah, I mean, James, the one thing is that I think James knows is he knows I'm very tough on myself, and that I will stop at nothing to be successful in the task assigned to me. So I'll just stay at it. And I do work insane hours to get there, and he can count on me. And we don't hang out so much because we're both very busy people. But I think, he knows that I'm somebody that is still, at the end of the day, I am about the art. I'm not about the adulation or whatever notoriety you can get from this stuff. I mean, even though I'm involved in a number of things that appear to be public, I'm a rather private person. Yeah. So I'm very boring on social media and all that, I'm selective about who I'll even talk to about my work or interviews.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
I just, I'm happy to share experiences and stories. I just don't really feel too comfortable with commenting on my own work too much. But
you don't want to rate them from favorite to least favorite.
No, I mean, I have interesting experiences on everything, and the movies that I've done lousy scores for, which there are some for sure, many after you do like 70 movies. There's right. You hope that half of them you don't apologize for.
Right.
But there's something to be learned from everything. So I'm appreciative of all of it, and appreciative of having every opportunity that comes my way. And so, having worked with James now for a good 12 years, it's definitely trying at times, but it's gonna be, going in, it's not just gonna be, hey buddy, how's it going today? It's like, no, it's like, we have to make the best movie ever to even, what I mean? That's what we're aspiring to even make a great movie, because it's so hard to make anything that's really great or really as you had imagined it to be.
Yeah.
So, you need to stay at it, and you've got to just have an undying tenacity in pursuit of your goal. And so I think over time, James trusts that that's what I'm about, and that's how I'm wired. So he knows no matter what, I'm gonna come through because I have to do that even for myself.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, we know each other well enough, you know. We've been through a few things over the years, so it's cool to be part of the growth of an artist like James too, because
he did little movies. Now he's doing the biggest movies.
Well, you know, Slither was only little because you know, once it was made, there was not there wasn't a clear vision of how to market that film and turn people onto it. Super, of course, was a little movie, but I never doubted that James was going to make a big movie. And I actually had this conversation with an agent at the time, and I had been just started with this agent. I was going over, you know, my clients and whatever, the stuff you do when you first start, and Super had made $322,000 worldwide at the box office. Right. And so I mentioned James, you know, and you know, they're cool people, but they kind of rolled their eyes at the idea that James was going to make a movie that was going to have such a massive impact on Hollywood. And I told them, I said, he's going to make a movie that is going to change things. It's just going to happen.
Yeah.
And, you know, people just don't have a tendency to see the capacity of a person until it's been validated with monetary success.
Yeah.
But when he called me about doing Guardians, I was in London recording a score for a game, God of War Ascension. That's what it was. He's like, dude, I think I'm going to get this Guardians of the Galaxy gig. Are you into it? And I had no idea what he was talking about.
Not a comic book guy.
I had no idea.
Yeah.
I didn't even know what 300 was when Zach showed me the comic book.
Right.
I'm like, it's better that way probably because then I don't have the preconceived notions of what it should be. Mm-hmm. I'm just into it for the storytelling and emotion as relayed by the director and what I get from the film and just all the typical research of cinema that you do as a composer as opposed to the lore of a brand or a character. Mm-hmm. I think that would be too much. It'd just be too much to think consciously, okay, I'm going to go in and write this theme that is going to be the theme for the Guardians of the Galaxy that's going to be memorable.
But then, though, when James calls you and you've worked with him at that point a few times, you just trust him, you like him, and you go, hey man, if you want me, I'm there. Do you just have that kind of mindset, or does
I'm that way with I'm that way with all directors that I work with. So I'll do, if they're doing a pitch and say they're shooting a proof of concept and they have no money or whatever, I don't care. It's like, look, let's get this thing going. If you're going to shoot something and we need to do ADR in my studio and you need a score or you need a mix, I'll find a way to get it done. And definitely done that with a number of people, and it's worked out. I mean, even 300 was that, you know. Yeah. It took a year to get a deal for that movie, and we developed all sorts of assets, you know, Zach and I at my studio. So I'm in it, you know. I mean, I'm excited to see that, to be part of that moment, you know, when something cool happens, and you know, you have to put yourself out there and work hard to be there for it, you know. I mean, I think that's part of why I do have a deep connection generally with the filmmakers I work with repeatedly, because I've been there at that time and I've put myself out there, whatever you need, no matter what. I mean, PG porn, no one's paying for that music, you know, but I'll do it. You want to do that? Cool. Because James Gunn needed to do that to get from one point in his artistic mindset to the other. Mm-hmm. You know, sometimes we just need to do stuff. Same thing as just whatever. Like, it's
part of the journey.
Yeah.
Right?
And for me, I need to go out and play live music. It just it opens me up and in a way that I can't experience in a studio setting. And also, there's no notes, you know, which is part of the job. Obviously, as a commissioned composer, you're collaborating with whether it's one or two people on a small indie or a lot of people. And rightfully so, everyone has a voice and what that should be. So that's perfectly cool with me. I know the deal, and I'm comfortable with that. But I need to also, on my own volition, go experience music without answering to anybody, really.
And you did that with Star Spangled Banner.
I did do that. I did do that, you know.
By the way, why Tennessee Titans is your...
Oh, okay.
Because you're from California.
Yes, I am.
You're born and raised. You've been here your whole life, right?
No, I've spent part of my time outside Chicago on a ranch. Oh. It was a long story. It was a very haunted log cabin. There were 2 exorcisms that took place in that house while we lived there.
Oh, you and your wife and your family?
No. This was my mom and my dad. And
okay.
when I was a kid, you know, we moved all over the place. But yeah, we were there, you know, horses, the whole deal. And
why moving around so much as a kid?
Well, my father's
jobs,
different job opportunities, and domestic issues at home. Okay. You know, just things that take you from one place to the next. But anyway,
Tennessee Titans.
Okay.
Did you end up in Tennessee at some point?
Nope.
Okay.
Here's why. So my father, you know, I love my dad, but he's diametrically different than I am. Sure. Although I think I've probably gotten my tenacious spirit from him, and probably my obsessive compulsive drive to take pride in my work. Mm-hmm. And so I'm appreciative for that. But otherwise, we're so different. He's totally not into music. He didn't even know I had any soundtracks out like last year. I'm like, yeah. He's like, people listen to that stuff?
What is he, 80 now? 70?
No, he's 75, but he could still kick our ass. I'm telling you. Yeah, totally. But anyway, he had overheard me on, you know, talking to someone at a label on the phone, and he's like, what, are you making a deal? I said, it's just for a soundtrack. He said, a soundtrack? He says, what, the music you write for the movies? I'm like, yeah. He says, people listen to it? I'm like, yes, they do, actually, and they buy it sometimes, too. And he says, so you've got one of those out? I'm like, I have like 25 of them out, Dad.
He doesn't have any. He doesn't listen to it. He doesn't.
No, my mother was the music. She was so into music, but she died when I was young. So, so that's where I got my inspiration to pursue life as a musician, was through her. My parents never should have been together, I don't think. But so anyway, my dad's really intense, you know, and.
Right.
And at the time, definitely gambling, drinking, you know, whatever. Mm-hmm. I was a little toe-headed kid, and I really didn't talk to him. You know, I was just afraid of him.
Yeah, intimidated.
Oh, yeah. And so...
How many siblings did you have?
I have one brother with my parents, and then 2 half-brothers.
Okay.
And so anyway, the Dolphins had... won the Super Bowl, perfect season, you know, I was a little kid, and he just gets in my face and he's like, see, Ty, you gotta love a fucking winner. And just the way he said it to me just kind of freaked me out. And, you know, he was buzzed, and that was scary enough when you're a kid, you know. Yeah. You really don't want to see your parents buzzed. But so anyway,
and cursing in your face and stuff.
Oh, that was regular. That was a regular part of the job. So as being a kid in that house. So anyway, I looked up all the teams, and I saw the Houston Oilers won only one game that year. They were 1-13, and they had powder blue uniforms. And I'm like, that's my team. So that was my way of saying, fuck you, Dad.
That was it.
Yeah. And then I started to love all the players, and then they got to be pretty good.
Okay.
You know? And so, yeah, my childhood heroes were Alvin Bethea and Curly Culp and, of course, Earl Campbell. So all the guys that played on that team. And I knew they were kind of outside. Like I felt like there was some volunteer stitching their uniforms together in the locker room where, you know, the Steelers would always, you know, have all the good stuff.
Right. And they're underdogs.
Total.
Right?
And
So
I've always...
rooted for the underdog.
I am an underdog. I love underdogs. Yeah. You know, so that's where that started, and then I just stayed with the team, and then they moved, and I don't know, I was intrigued by the whole deal, so I stayed with it the whole way, and glad that I did, even though it's been painful most of the time. But
right.
How crazy is that? I got to write the theme for my favorite team and then go play the national anthem at a game.
That's fucking awesome. Do they use it every game? Like
they did last year. I don't know what they're doing now.
Okay.
But I'm going to go down to the opening game this year. They asked me to play with whoever's playing at halftime, so I don't know.
Just jam or something? Or
well, they have different artists perform a couple songs. Just halftime entertainment, like the Super Bowl, but about 1/100th of that intensity.
Right.
So
that sounds fun.
Yeah, it's totally fun. Yeah, and thankfully,
look at me now, Dad.
No,
right?
No, he's proud. He loves movies, so he doesn't listen to the music. It's funny, like Guardians 2 came out, and he's like, yeah, I'm not into all that space crap. I love that John Wick though. So shooting people in the face, he's into that. Yeah, fighting, he loves that. But he did end up seeing Guardians 2. He's like, hey, your music wasn't too bad either.
Oh,
so I'm like, thanks. Praise. That's not too bad. I'm like, well, thank you.
Is he a Marilyn Manson fan?
No, they actually came out to a show in Dallas, and a bunch of my family who live in Dallas, my dad and his wife, and my two brothers down there with their wives and cousins and stuff. So they all came to the show, and it was a huge show. Yeah. And so I brought them all on Manson's bus afterwards to meet him, and they had fun meeting him. Yeah, of course. He's with anybody related to me. Yeah, he's super sweet.
Manson. He was a nice guy when I talked to him. Manson at the bar at that time.
I just cool. It's our relationship is good. It's not my. I really just don't want to know anything else. As a matter of fact, I don't want to know anything else about anybody.
About Manson? Are you guys?
No, about anybody. You know what I mean? Just in our business, working in the entertainment business, it's really just best to focus on whatever your experience is with somebody. I do care about aligning myself with people who are upright and ethical, and I'm not going to speak on behalf of morality, but I'm just saying, like the treatment that I do get working in the situation with Manson is awesome. It's we're natural collaborators. I'm not commissioned to do so, but it turns out very well for me in all fronts. And I love to write rock music and play it, and I have the opportunity to do that with him and then go perform it. So of course I'm going to do it. Why wouldn't I?
How long you guys known each other?
Not that long, just a few years.
Because when I saw you guys that night, I mentioned that I saw Marilyn Manson. He was one of the first few concerts I saw back in Florida in the 90s, opening for Jim Rose, with Jim Rose and Nine Inch Nails. And you knew exactly the venue I saw and like the year.
Well, he did, but I saw them here when it was the Universal Amphitheater, same tour. I didn't know him though.
Oh, okay. I maybe I mixed it up.
No, we met on Californication because I was doing the music to that show with a friend of mine, and we had to do a live concert for the conclusion of one season of that show. And so they turned it into a concert. It was filmed at the Greek Theater, and Manson was part of it. And so I met him through that. And then we got to know each other for, probably a year plus. And finally, we figured, let's make some music and see how that conversation goes. And it was very natural. It's pretty remarkable how on point we always are together. Like, we don't even have to discuss certain concepts. We're already there. And frankly, I'm so bored to tears with so much of what's going on in pop culture with music.
Okay.
He's not afraid to say whatever he feels needs to be said, and he's not going to back off it or apologize. And to have the opportunity to write music for, somebody who's he's a very iconic rock star and a performance artist. So it's interesting. We have a lot of very intellectual discussions, usually me on the listening end. as you can imagine from hearing me speak now. But he, he turns me on to music that I wouldn't hear otherwise because I write music all day.
Right.
I just write music all the time. And when I don't, I try to collapse as much as I can, but it's hard for me to even unwind. So when we get together and work, he'll be like, "Oh, did you hear this song?" I'm like, "No, I didn't watch those 7 TV shows you just mentioned." So
he loves TV, right? He watches
loves
a lot
it.
of TV, right?
Loves
he's
it.
in a lot. I mean, he does sometimes.
Yeah, well, Salem
and Justified.
Yeah, I worked on Salem and
not Justified, Sons of Anarchy.
Sons of Anarchy. Oh yeah. He thought that was amusing. He'd come over to work on the last record after shooting Sons of Anarchy, and they paint swastikas all over him.
Right.
So he'd make his jokes about him, like, "Well, my wife and daughters are Jewish." I'm like, "So this record's made in the house of the Jews, motherfucker." He'd laugh though. All he's doing is really he's just prodding people. If he thinks there's something politely sitting in the back corner of your psyche, he's gonna just push you to make it come out.
Yeah,
that's all. I mean,
that's fun.
I found over time that's his main interest is finding what makes people tick, and then seeing if he can make them uncomfortable in a comedic fashion.
Yeah.
But
he's probably pretty good at it, I would guess.
He's pretty good. He's pretty good at it. Right? I'm like dead as a stone around him. Like, he'll just throw everything at me and I don't really respond.
That's funny.
Because
you've known him a while now, so you know how he is. Were you a fan of his before you met him?
I was a fan of the overall concept of Marilyn Manson. Again, anytime someone in rock music comes into the pantheon of what rock is and is destined to fuck everything up, I'm interested in it. I mean, think about Jim Morrison, Iggy Pop, David Bowie, dare I say even Kiss. I don't know that their aspirations were motivated similarly to those, but what happened when Manson came out, it was after Nirvana had blown up, and everything was about grunge and that style of singing. And, I was not a huge fan of grunge other than Alice in Chains, which is, they were absolutely my favorite band out of Seattle.
Yeah.
I did like some Nirvana though. But anyway, I was already tired of it because so many bands started sounding like their song arrangements were like Nirvana. It was bass and drums in the verses, and then the yelling and exploding guitars in the choruses, and I was just so bored of it. It seemed so predictable. And then Manson had this influence of literature and art and biblical text and obviously pop culture, and then of course Jim Morrison and David Bowie and Iggy Pop, and a lot of things that I liked that I was fearing were going to become entirely defunct in the world of rock music. So when somebody effectively comes in and breaks the comfort zone as he did, it caught my attention, and I thought that was cool.
Yeah.
And as I got a little bit more used to what he was doing and understood it more, I saw it, I think, more accurately for what he was going for. I wasn't looking at his music so much as like a musician, a guitar player. I was looking at the statement and the picture he was painting. And once that totally set in, and I saw that when I went to see him in concert with Jim Rose and Nine Inch Nails, I'm like, I get it. I see what he's doing. It's it's cool.
Yeah.
So that intrigues me. There are filmmakers like that too, like, David Lynch. I mean, some of his stuff is so unsettling if you think about his, just Blue Velvet is crazy, and Lost Highway, and there's just so many.
I haven't seen the new Twin Peaks. I was talking to somebody the other day, and he's like, it's the weirdest thing David Lynch has ever done. I like it, but I couldn't recommend other people watch it.
Well, it's funny because because of this friend of mine, I get a first-hand review on everything.
Oh, that's cool.
So I'm always like, don't tell me about this because I haven't seen that show yet or that episode. And he'll be like, well, it's not exactly a spoiler alert. Well, what happens? Like last night, he's telling me about Alien. Okay. I know everything about the movie now, and I haven't seen it
yet.
It's like, ugh. So, but anyway, it's humorous. You know, I don't have time to keep up with everything, but I do try and, you know, I do enjoy watching some of the shows, and I find it really inspiring and somewhat intimidating looking at the quality of work that people are doing. There's so many good composers in television.
Who do you like? Anybody specific or any shows here?
There's a lot of good ones. You know, I think Matt Quayle does a great job on Mr. Robot. It's really good. You know, and I love House of Cards. I think that's great. Jeff Beal's themes in that show are just fantastic. I like The Handmaid's Tale.
Oh, I haven't watched that yet.
Oh my God, that show is so tense, crazy. Music's good.
I'm watching Bloodline now. Do you watch Bloodline on
the
Netflix?
First 2 seasons I saw.
You did? Okay, there's a third one out now.
Oh, there is.
The final season. It just came out a few days ago. I'm binging the first 2 seasons again.
Yeah.
So to go into the third.
Okay, see, I do watch some stuff. I did see that.
That's a great show.
You know.
That's a great show.
Because what happens is I'm so gutted by the time I ever get a chance to stop working at the end of a day. If I'm not out with some friends or playing somewhere at a club or whatever, you know, if I'm just hanging out with my wife, we'll just generally chill. She's been in school for the last few years and is graduating this Thursday. So
how old is she? I'm just joking.
21. No.
Well, that's cool. When she went back to school?
Yeah, she wanted to be a nurse.
Cool. Oh,
she
nice.
wanted to do something, you know, constructive with her life, and she's very independent. I'm super motivated and inspired by that. Just, I couldn't even imagine.
Good for her.
I could not imagine.
Is that because the kids are, you said teenagers now, so they're more independent? She has time for herself and has time to go do that?
Yeah, she wants to help people. She doesn't want to, you know, busy her days with coffee dates. You know, yeah, she wants to do something that's meaningful. So I think it's great.
Yeah, totally.
It's really, really cool.
And now if you're ever sick, you got a nurse right now.
Well, that's, you know, it's foresight is what it is. Because I'm sure at some point I'm going to keel over and she'll probably just have to take care of me, and she'll think, wow, this isn't exactly what I thought it was going to be.
It's a good investment. Right?
I keep telling her I just need to jack up the life insurance, you know.
Well, how many hours would you say you work on an average week in your studio?
Average week, if I'm totally being honest, just average would be 80.
Okay. That's a lot.
That's more than 12 a day.
Yeah.
And, you know, in the throes of a Guardians of the Galaxy.
Yeah. More than that, right?
You're talking 100. Like 105 or 10. That's crazy.
Yeah.
And that then, like, myself and, like, everyone on my team is at one point or another going to have a physical breakdown or an emotional breakdown.
Yeah, I imagine. I mean, it's mentally and physically exhausting.
Yeah, and no matter how well you prepare for it, it's just like an hourglass. You know, when the sands are nearly out, they just start rushing through the hole. You know, so no matter what happens, no matter how much lead time you have, how much prep work you do, it's always going to be insane at the end. And the demands are tremendous. And they're tremendous because we want to make it great and special.
Sure.
And so I do have people who work with me, but they're all very close to me and personally, as friends, as artists that I relate to, so that the vision for what I'm intending, you know, the vision I'm intending to put forward is what I'm feeling and what I want, and is emblematic of what I'm writing. It's not like just calling everybody I can get a hold of and saying, all right, I need you 3 to write me versions of that cue. I don't do things like that. You know, it's more from the mentality of a culture of art and music and supporting the artistry of those around me, not trying to get them to be clones of me. but because we're so close anyway, everyone just knows my sensibilities, and I'm involved in a lot of the stages that I'm involved a lot in stages like orchestration. So the music's been written, but in the preparation of that music to be performed by the musicians, we go through all the orchestrations. Tim Williams has worked with me for a long time, and he's an excellent composer on his own right. And luckily, he works with me as an orchestrator and conductor. And if I need any help, he's always been there. And so we'll go through each cue, before it's going off to our copyist, Ross Desrochers, who I love. And, I'll get ideas for this or that. So I sit at his piano and pluck out a few things here and there. So I'll just have some last second ideas that we always get thrown into the mix. And, sometimes at the 11th hour, we'll get a new picture and have to rework a cue or conform it to that picture. And, so in those stages, I'll spend some time over at Tim's place. And it's cool, though. I love everybody I work with, and they're all really committed to doing the best that they can do, as artists.
What do you like to work for or with?
What do you
your temperament, or you get exhausted sometimes working these 100-hour weeks.
Oh yeah, every composer is.
Do you get short, or are you able to maintain a level of I don't know, professionalism is the right word, but just calmness? You
have to, otherwise you don't hear the appropriate information that you need to know.
Yeah.
So when you're presenting music to studio executives and a director, and it's in an environment that I don't control, like a music editor suite or something,
right?
You just have to allow people to take it in and experience it. And if there's then a critical comment or question, then we can maybe present the music again just as music without all the noises and dialogue and stuff around it or whatever. But regardless of what idea someone presents in that moment, you want to just take a breath and listen to what they're saying and deal with it.
Yeah.
Because you really have to think about, in anything you do in this life, you have to think about what you want the outcome of that scenario to be. So if you want it to be good and you want to have healthy relationships, you want to be somebody that people can count on and they feel like you're not going to give out on them, because it's like if you were walking on a pond that's thawed out in one section. You kind of want to be very careful about the way you step there, and you don't want directors and producers and people to feel that they need to
walk on eggshells.
To treat you with kid gloves and walk gingerly. I know what they want to do. They don't want to punish me. They want to make a great movie. They want to make a movie that's going to be successful. So I need to really pay attention to what it is they mean, or what it is they want to feel, or what they're thinking, or if there's a note from an audience, focus group or something like that. If it's something that they feel is important, they'll share it with me, and then we take that into account. It's very, very challenging, and so in order to go through that type of experience, which don't get me wrong, it's an incredible privilege to work on everything I do. I'm very, very fortunate for that, but I can't try and use that vehicle to get all of my personal artist's shit out of the way. It's incumbent upon me to take care of that. I can't just score movies for life and then wake up one day pissed off that I don't love music anymore because the way I feel I was treated or whatever.
Right.
I never did this. It's like, I have to go out and do it. And so by me making records with different artists or songs with different artists and going out and playing, whether I'm touring with Manson or I'm doing a club date or whatever, I can get that energy out through those vehicles or that forum, and then I can be a little bit more clear when I come into the studio and recharged to really dig into my work in film and television, because there's an energy to that too that I want to bring to it. by me going out and having these experiences that test your mettle, you bring that back into the studio, and then that gives you like some new kind of beat of inspiration to approach your work with. And the people I work with feel that, that I'm trying to continue to develop myself as an artist and to continue to have new experiences and take on new types of challenges. And, I feel like I'm just starting, so. Yeah.
It's a good feeling to have after all this time.
All this time. You snap your fingers 3 times and we go from 20 till now.
Well, somebody has a birthday next week.
Yeah, that's what I heard. There's a few of us on that date. I know several people with the same birthday.
Yeah.
Which is funny. But I've learned that I'm a Gemini type 2.
Okay.
I guess there are 3 types of Geminis.
I'm unaware of that. What does that mean?
Well, of course, we've gone through like some pretty major renovations over the past year at our house, and while I am typically very calm and with my work, of course we all bitch about this and that to people we can commiserate with, but I'm generally pretty even keeled. I don't jump up and down with excitement too much, and I don't let myself sink way too low. I've been through so much in my life at this point. I guess maybe because I'm getting older, I'm like,
okay.
I just got to let this go or whatever it is and just keep moving. But my wife was studying something in sociology or whatever, and it led her to have this massive book on astrology. I don't know why. Some understanding some science and relating to psychology. And so I just thought, the Geminis are Geminis. We're all schizophrenic in some way, whatever. Twin personalities. But being a Gemini too, apparently I get frustrated with people who can't understand concepts that I find to be very rudimentary. And I have ridiculous standards for details.
Okay. Very high standards.
The execution of details. Okay. So, when you're doing construction on your house, talking about patterns being cohesive and lines being straight, that stuff.
My girlfriend's like that, very much so.
It drives me nuts. Yeah, oh my God, when something's a little out, oof, it drives me crazy. So, I've learned to cope with it.
Don't look around this house too closely. It's a very old house.
But I didn't pay for it. But
so when you're doing renovations, do you go around seeing the renovations and going, oh shit, this is a little off and this is a little boom, boom. Do you do that?
Mostly in the finishing stages, because the finishing work is where the die is cast pretty much. The demo, it's great. Everyone loves their contractor when they're in the demo phase, because they're watching walls come down and
it's all fast.
There's fast. We had like 16 massive container loads of stuff hauled out of that place. Right. I mean, it's nuts. So you're excited when you see all that, right?
Hey, Banner's here. Yeah.
So you're excited to see stuff happening, but then once they have 70% of your money on the job, things start to slow down, and then when there are problems, it seems to take longer and longer to solve them. So, we're whatever, like 8-9 months past the finish date of our project, and there's still people working in the house, So it's we'd just like to be done with it.
I'm getting mad just you talking about it. I'm getting mad.
You know what? It was so funny because my wife and I were watching Colbert one night, and he had made a joke about wanting to be put into a self-induced coma for 8 months while his house is under construction or something like that.
I get that.
It might have been the only laugh we shared that day, but anyway, it's all good. Like
we did some renovations here. Deborah went to film season 1 of Daredevil, and she brought the dog, and I knew we had a lot of stuff to do here at the house. So, especially with the floors, wood floors, we wanted them to be resanded and refinished and all that stuff, which meant taking up all the furniture And while that was going on, we said, well, since the furniture's up, let's change all the molding and do this and that and then paint everything and this and that. So we had a list of things to do. So that meant I had to sleep out in the back, like converted garage area that's like really tiny.
But at least you have a converted garage.
I had something. And what was supposed to take a month took 3. Mm-hmm. And I slept back there for 3 months.
Yeah, it gets old. Yeah. So we stayed in the house during the renovation, and it was everything in the center of the house. Moved the kitchen to a new location. It was nuts. Yeah. It needed to happen though. So
your kids are still in the house?
Yeah. So we're talking like a fridge in the hallway, card table, microwave, total
toilet in the closet.
Yeah, white trash. No, luckily we had toilets, but
it's more than I had.
I mean, it's all good. Both my wife and I have lived in pretty horrible apartments in our lifetime, and
where's she from?
Jersey.
East Coast girl.
Yeah, she was living in New York City when we started dating. Oh. So yeah.
How'd you guys meet?
So like not cool. Okay, so being a musician, over the years, people have, from different instrument manufacturers and equipment companies, they've been supportive of me, maybe someone who's given me strings, and guitars and amps and whatever. So I'd go to the NAMM show to just say thanks. Mm-hmm. I get in and out of there. The energy just drives me nuts. There's just too many people down there, and it just kind of freaks me out. I'm not good in crowds. I'm fine playing in front of them, but I'm not good standing in them, funny. So a mutual friend of ours, was standing there. I'm talking to him, and Lisa walked up, and he's like, oh, Lisa, don't you? Because I was living in Chicago at one point, and this guy was the A&R for Washburn Guitars. And so my friend George and I used to do clinics for them back when I was painting houses, teaching guitar, doing guitar clinics, whatever I could do to scrounge up enough money to duct tape the window that was broken out of my car, to duct tape that hole closed. It was pretty tough back then. But so anyway, he introduced us, and I don't know what it was. It was just like this electricity went through my arm when I shook her hand. So then I talked to her for a minute. Then I had to go because I was in a hurry. I was delivering a movie that day, and
when was this? What do you remember? What movie it was?
Yeah, that was January 17th of 1997. How about that? Right.
Time was.
Oh, I'm like Rain Man with numbers, So
really?
Yeah. So at any rate, I went to this other part of the convention hall. Like there's thousands and thousands of people there, and I was far away from where I had met her. I'm talking to this guy who knew her because he used to work at Washburn too, and so we're talking, and I'm like, I gotta go see if I can catch somebody before I leave. I don't know why, but my band was going on tour, and I knew we were going to be doing a residency in New York City for a few weeks.
Okay.
So I figured, it'd be good to meet her. And
was this Pet?
Yeah.
Your band?
Yeah. So anyway, strangely enough, I take this escalator up, and as soon as I get to the top, she's walking by right there. I'm like, oh man, I don't believe too much in the superstitions, but that was a coincidence. And so we spoke for a while, and then as soon as I rolled into New York, we went out, and we just kept going out.
Wow.
And that was it.
Did you do like long distance at one point?
3 months.
Yeah, that's not bad.
No, she gave up her cool apartment in Manhattan and moved out to LA, and she wanted to start a new publicity company anyway. She was in music publicity, so she put a plan in place to start a new company with a friend from college who was in the same business, and so yeah, she kind of gave up that apartment to try it out with me out in LA, and
that's great.
So I appreciate that very, very much.
No kidding. And that could have, you guys, she makes a move, and then a month later you guys break up. That's a big risk.
Yeah, lucky she didn't see the full picture of me, for a few years. It's too late. It's too late. All the neuroses popping through my skin.
So you guys moved in together after 3 months. Or did you?
Yeah, well, it was kind of like this. It was funny. It was funny. She's like, well, I could get an apartment out in LA. and she was coming out to visit. And I said, yeah. And then I'm thinking, okay, she's going to get an apartment. It's so expensive in LA. And I had the most awesome duplex. And so she came out to visit, and like 4 days before she was coming in, she's like, I'm thinking maybe I'll just move now instead of 3 months from now. I'm like, well, if you're sure you're going to move and you're sure you want to give LA a shot, might as well.
Yeah.
And so I just said, hey, you can just stay at my place till you're situated,
Yeah.
But I knew that she was never going to not be at my place.
Right.
And by the time, so then like 2 days later, UPS boxes show up, and I'm like, whoa, this is kind of intense,
Yeah. Have you ever lived with anybody before that?
Yeah, I had. Okay. And so it
didn't go well.
Right, exactly. I'm like, oh my God. Am I walking around with a gun trained in my head?
Yeah.
So anyway, I remember driving to the airport, picking her up. That was pretty intense. But no, it's been great. And ever since she got in the car at the airport, I'm like, you know what? You're not going to go get an apartment right now, right?
And she agreed?
She's like, yeah, I'm in. Let's do it.
Wow.
Let's see how it goes.
No kidding. Wow.
Yeah, we work really well together too. We have an awesome life. But
you were in your 30s, early 30s, something like that.
Very.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And she was around the same.
A few years younger than me.
Years younger.
Not a full cliche of Hollywood, but just like 4 years younger than me.
Yeah, it's not bad.
Yeah, but it's been cool. We have a pretty interesting, colorful life. Yeah.
How long after did you get married?
Well, 2.5 years, 3 years, somewhere like that. 2.5 years.
Then you had kids, couple kids.
Planned them.
You planned the kids?
Can you imagine, like, a rock musician planning children?
Well, I guess you have to, right? You don't want to be on tour or something, right?
Yeah, well, I just didn't get someone pregnant. That's a good thing. But, I would say that's maybe, those are the only things I've handled very responsibly. No, actually, I'm responsible.
Guy.
I am. I'm usually, I am, I guess, somebody that people tend to trust that I'll get it done.
Were you, as a kid, what were you like as a kid? Were you quiet as a kid and shy?
Yeah, actually, until
introverted.
I was in my mid-20s. But when I moved back to LA, I was just having the hardest time getting any work. And I'm like, man, I got to kind of change my approach. So maybe I'm going to have to like get into like that alter ego mindset like when I go out and play.
Right.
Because it's very comfortable on stage playing ridiculous guitar stuff back in the day. I wouldn't dare play that crap now, but anyway, it's very comfortable with it. Even, the whole performance and flamboyancy and all that stuff.
Yeah.
But in person, I was very uncomfortable with that, or selling myself, and I really didn't know what I was doing entirely, because I moved out to LA again to pursue producing and songwriting, music.
Right.
And sort of fell into scoring just because people met me and they had very little money for a score for their movie and figured, I probably couldn't screw it up too bad. So
right.
That's how I began. And
that's in the 90s also?
Yeah. So I was doing that, and, I painted some houses, in between. But I did 18 movies until before I met another composer who had ever done a movie.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I never met anyone who'd ever scored a movie until 18 movies in.
Wow, so that's got to be a few years at least that you've been, at least...
3.5 years. I was cranking them out.
Wow.
Just these, they're like Corman movies, I put a lot into it.
Yeah.
Everything I had at the time. And then fortunately, people were very giving of their experience with me. So directors, producers, editors, re-recording mixers, musicians were all really cool by sharing their experiences with me and helping me get up to speed, because I really had no clue.
Did you go to college?
Mm-mm. I went straight into the stock market from high school, and there are extenuating circumstances behind that, and it has to do with what was going on at my house at the time.
Okay.
But
can you talk about that? Or?
But so anyway, I joined this band, like a metal band that was in the city. It was in Chicago, and I lived way out in the sticks on this ranch.
Okay.
And so I was still in high school, and I wasn't sure what I was doing exactly after, because I felt there was something that needed to be dealt with, or at least looked after or cared for in my house. So I was in the band, and they got me an interview on the Board of Options trading floor. So I started out as a runner, and then within about less than a year and a half, I was managing a firm. And I was the youngest ever to do that. I was informed.
Wow.
I was informed.
Like the Wolf of Wall Street.
Yeah, I was 19 when I managed a firm, and I was trading stocks and options. And by the way, this was just I took the job very seriously.
Yeah.
But this was just my way of making money while I was playing in bands, and
Right.
I was still going for that, you know.
So that's a day job, and you're playing at night, probably, right?
Yeah, we'd rehearse, with the band 3-4 nights a week in the city, and by the time I get home, it's 1 a.m. Get up at 4:45 to go in to work and do it again. But frankly, that job prepared me immensely to be a composer and to handle the stress level and the attention to detail that's required to be successful in this line of work. And
you're dealing with a lot of different personalities.
Absolutely.
Too, right?
You're talking probably the most eccentric collection of people I've ever known.
Yeah.
And that was a long time ago. And at one point, the partners in the firm had offered to buy me a seat to trade with and to finance my career, but essentially that would have to be priority one, not music. And I said, well, you guys, I'm not going to do that. I'm doing music. And
they're like, sure you are.
No.
Were they?
And I was at this precipice where I was either going to trade or I needed to move on, because I'd basically mastered the job.
Right.
Go ahead, say it. Bates, I mastered the job. So
I'll let you do it. You've probably heard enough of those jokes.
Oh, yeah. I've told plenty of them as well. But so anyway, they gave me some good luck money, and I left, and the stock market it crashed the Monday after that Friday I left. But this is a funny thing that happened. So my father opened an account with my firm just so he'd have something to talk to me about. So he had some stock investments and stuff. And so I did some trading for him, just when I felt there was a good play. And,
it's actually kind of nice of him to do that, don't you think?
Well, I didn't make money off of him opening an account, but it was other than talking about football or something.
Yeah,
It was the only thing we talk about, because he's not into music,
Yeah.
So anyway, the day before I left, he had this stock that had been sitting at 3/32 of a dollar forever. 25,000 shares, so this cost like $200. He's like, do you want this dog? I've got 25,000 shares of it. I have like a $200 margin call that I owe your firm. I should just clean it up before I leave. I don't want this thing. You want this stock? And I was just like, nah, I'm out of here. And, I just wasn't thinking. I was just like, I'm out of here. I mean, normally if I had taken a minute to think about it, I would have said, yeah, sure, whatever, $200.
It's not Apple, is it?
Right? So,
like
so he instead just gave it to one of my bosses.
Oh, God.
So it's a stock Telefono de Mexico. And a year and a half later, that stock was worth, that was $4.5 million. So I was thinking to myself, when I would have had $4.5 million when I was 24. I was so poor then, because I totally screwed myself when I left the stock market. I didn't know how to sort of scale back down to eating top ramen,
Right.
So it was like a minute and I was broke.
Oh, God.
And so...
what was that stock?
Telefono de Mexico.
Okay.
So anyway, I was still broke as hell, but still thankful that I did not have that money, because it would have screwed my life up.
What's it worth now?
I don't know. I don't care. I really don't care. It's just... it doesn't hurt to say that. I would love it today.
Yeah.
That would be wonderful. But no, it would have screwed the whole journey up.
Sure.
Then I needed still to get even tougher, and and to learn more about who I am, you know. And
Do you still invest?
A little bit, but I don't play, you know.
Yeah.
We just drop some money in there whenever we can, whenever it's not being siphoned out of me. So.
How long were you in Chicago for? I lived there for 3 years.
Oh, I was there a while. I was there a good 16 years or so.
Oh, 16? You were there a long time.
Yeah.
How'd you like it? I love Chicago.
It's a great town.
Yeah.
Matter of fact, in my opinion, if you're driving into every city of America, which I've done, major city anyway.
Yeah.
I think it's the greatest town.
Yeah.
I love LA. I mean, that's I love LA. It's like my home. It's where my mother's from. My grandmother, you know, brought her up here, and so I have roots in LA, and it's always felt normal to me.
Yeah.
But as a city, I love Chicago. It's just great. And if you're into sports, it's a great town, and
big sports town,
and lots of good restaurants. I mean, really good restaurants, and lots of fun places to party.
Deep
and whatever.
dish pizza. You're the pizza guy. Oof.
Yeah. Well, you know, the version of me that would still live there would look a little bit different than I do now.
I understand. Believe me, I understand.
So yeah, I just
When you were a kid, were you like bullied in school and stuff, or were you a smart kid? Because you're a smart guy. Did you do well?
Again, I would say that maybe the culture in my home was challenging to the degree that I was not that interested in being an excellent student. Mm-hmm. Once in a while, a teacher would challenge me.
Yeah.
And my attitude was like, yeah, fuck you. All right, I'll get an A in your class.
Yeah.
Whether it's like some kind of advanced English class or something, I was always capable of doing it. But, you know, there was just a lot going on in our family's life and in my life, and that took precedent. And I had a tremendous amount of responsibility, too, as a kid, you know, because we had horses and people boarded their horses on the property, and there's a ton of property to maintain.
Right?
Yeah. So a lot of property to maintain, and you know, I played music, of course, and
is that when you started playing music, like as an escape from the hard stuff that was going on at home or whatever?
I just always related to music since I can remember. My mother used to read liner notes to me because I was curious, you know, before I could read, or that's how she taught me to read. Pretty much was just we were reading liner notes on albums.
Did she play instruments or anything?
No, but she had the most badass stereo of all time. I mean, racks of power amps and gear, and she bought 10 records a week. So I used to go to
So she loved music.
Oh yeah. It was nonstop. So I learned a lot about music and artists' behavior and production just from listening to music with her and reading about artists and, you know, coming to understand them a little bit more than just react to an initial impression, you know. And I think that the broad spectrum of music that I was exposed to before I found the thing that I was going to get hooked on, you know what I mean? The one specific thing that was going to get me stuck in the mud, like, you know, buying Kiss records for, you know, like a few years, right. Becoming totally blind to talent. No, they have a certain talent. It's just not.
They're more interested in like selling merch than playing music.
But
right?
oh my God, that first Kiss concert I saw was incredible, though.
They put on a show, right?
Oh my God, it was so awesome.
Was that your first concert?
No.
What was your first concert?
I'm trying to remember. I think it might have been some pretty benign. It might have been like Doobie Brothers in Kansas.
Oh, that's cool.
Which Kansas is an incredible band live. So were the Doobie Brothers. But I find it funny. I heard that the guitar player, he's like a voluntary policeman who busts people with weed. Like, and the whole band.
Wait a second, what?
Wasn't the band named after, you know, kind of a, you know.
The potheads are like, wait a second, dude, I know you.
Yeah.
I know you from somewhere.
Exactly. Who knows? I'm just joking anyway. I mean, I heard that, but I don't really care what people do. I loved music always, and I loved going to concerts. And when I was a kid, you know, you could go to a concert for cheap, you know.
Yeah, right.
I remember seeing Kiss. A girl who boarded her horse at our house managed a Flipside record store, and so they were the Ticketmaster before Ticketmaster. Mm-hmm. So she got me 4 scalped tickets to Kiss, second row center. And this is back before there was a security barrier between you and the stage.
Yeah.
So it was literally like 5 feet from Ace Frehley, right? He even handed his beer to my brother's friend, and my brother's friend was so nervous that he spilled it on himself like an idiot. Anyway, I was still, you know...
Was your brother older than you?
Yeah. But I was just, I think, 13 when I went to that show, and that was really awesome. But we used to go to concerts almost every week because...
You and your brother?
Just all our friends, you know, my friends through high school. Because, you know, I always worked jobs. Besides working on my property, I had jobs since I was 11. You know, I worked doing all different things.
Maybe that's also helped with your work ethic. Because
yeah.
Working on a ranch, I mean.
Yeah, I worked in a factory when I was 12 and 13.
Wow.
I worked for a mobster when I was 14.
Whoa.
That was a whole different deal.
You're not allowed to talk about
it. was so crazy. It's going in a book.
Yeah? Are you going to write a book?
Oh, I have to.
Yeah.
People who get to know me are just like, you have to write a book. That's just too crazy. You know, just the first part of my life, let alone all the interesting things that have happened since I've gotten into the entertainment business.
Would you in this book? Would you talk about your family life and stuff?
Oh yeah, it's you know it's how I'm made. You know, I've learned to embrace everybody who has impacted my life because it would need to be part of that story. And there's a lot of very, very bizarre and interesting things that happened that I didn't realize how unorthodox it was until I was older and had some perspective on it.
Yeah.
But you've
mentioned that a few times now that you've had like crazy stuff and bizarre things and stuff.
Oh, yeah.
But you haven't been real specific about what things
just
you're alluding to.
Oh, just a lot of very volatile stuff in the family experience. Living. I mean, I know some people are very skeptical about ghosts, but our house was super haunted.
Yeah, let's go back to that. You mentioned that. That was like one of the first things you mentioned when we started talking.
Oh yeah.
But you didn't move into it knowing it was haunted or
no. We lived on the West Coast, and my father had a job opportunity, and he figured that he would get this place where my mom could keep her horse, and it was near a very close friend of hers. Anyway.
And this is in California?
No, it's back outside of Chicago.
Chicago. Okay, I thought so. Okay, so she had a horse in Chicago, or
California, and we moved out. We moved all over the place, and so yeah. So anyway,
so how do you know there was ghosts and stuff?
Well, we didn't at first, you know. Yeah. So we move into the house, and it's a strange house. It's all logs. There's no white wall in the house, right?
Okay.
It's beautiful but dark.
Sure. Old.
Yeah. It was, 1924 it was built, I think. And it was, stone fireplace, cultivated from stones from the property. And, it was woodsy. Mm. It wasn't fancy by any stretch, but it was
earthy.
It was. And it was beautiful upon your first impression, no doubt. But when you're used to living there, it's not fun to walk up stairs that are made of half logs.
Right.
I mean, they're nice and, it's nice and smooth and everything, but it's so rustic after a while. It's so dark and oppressive to not have any white walls and very few.
Especially in the winter in Chicago, right?
Oh, yeah. It was dark.
Yeah.
And that house the energy was so dark. And it was the undoing of my parents for sure.
Oh, really?
Oh, yeah. But there's so many people who I'm still very close with who've had really incredible experiences with like supernatural experiences in that house that they're just still kind of freaked out about. And the energy was pretty intense, I would say. It definitely had an impact on everything there. Everything just turned dark in that place.
Was there a history to that house?
Yes, there was. And actually every person who was the owner of that house died in a tragic accident or of some unexpected cause.
On the property?
Just in life. But yeah, most of them on the property. My mother died in a car accident, but then, we ended up, after she and my father were split. Right. But I had to deal with her husband, which was not pleasant. Mm. But so anyway, we ended up selling the house off to a developer or someone who sold it to a developer. They raised the house and built, 14 houses on the property.
Oh, wow.
But
14 haunted houses on the property. So you sold the house after your parents got divorced or before?
Oh, my mother remarried. She picked a real winner.
Yeah.
He was not, was not unexpected that he was the driver when she died in the car accident.
So was he drunk?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Always. Yeah.
Did he die too?
Unfortunately, no. You think, I don't wish death upon anyone, but if it's going to be one of the two, it's like,
right. How old were you?
19. And it was on the heels of a really rough time. Yeah, this guy was a son of a bitch, but it definitely made me a stronger person.
Yeah.
I think I found a place to put all the let's say the artifacts that accumulate in one's psyche from experiencing a lot of intimidation tactics from adults or violent gestures. I think you either find a way to be a survivor and use it to your advantage to live the life that you need to live and become the person you need to be, or you're a victim and you get trapped in the things that happen to you. So, somewhere along the way, I think that I just became more the survivor. And I think that probably being in bands really helped me a lot, just having that brotherhood and playing for audiences a lot, really helped me, I think, to find a good a place where I could live with all the shit that I'd endured without being totally fucked up.
Yeah. And I'm maybe you got to meet people that went through similar experiences.
Yeah, as you get older, you hopefully accrue some wisdom. And so when someone is an asshole at a checkout stand or something at a grocery store, you don't know what that person went through, or if their dog got hit by a car that day or something. And I know how that feels. It's happened a couple times. It's terrible. But you just don't know someone's experience. You don't know what they're going through. So you got to just take a step back, because right now it seems that we're in such a reactive or reactionary type society. Everyone's on edge because they're taking in way too much of this vinegar that people are pumping into the internets and media and stuff. And it's like, we can't handle the stress of all of it.
Yeah.
And then when you find yourself, getting into these cycles of people fueling your fire, where they agree with your angry, perspective, then that just gets you mired deeper in negativity. And I think that it's important not to imbibe in that too much. I'm not talking about, being cavalier or aloof about things. I just think that you need to be mindful of what you're subjecting yourself to on a daily basis. And it's up to you to balance yourself out with some healthy experience. And that's why I generally don't do a ton on the internet, because, people voice their opinions on there. And sometimes, if I do any digging, then I'm going to read things that I am not happy to read, or that are untruthful, or people think they know the truth and they have a tendency to write them there. Usually people who are more positive oriented are out living their life, because when you're more positive, you'll attract people into your life to live it with. Friends, family, whatever it is, so
and some people just like to vent, and they think
and
it's interesting because, like, if you're upset about something and you write it down, like in a journal, it can be helpful, because you're just kind of getting it out of or in a song or a poem.
Yeah, that's cathartic.
But it's cathartic. So people are using Twitter instead of a journal or writing a poem or a song. They're and it's not as healthy.
Well, the thing especially that I don't think people are entirely aware of. I'm sure, there's so many smart people out there. They're cognizant of the fact, but every social media platform, every app is definitely designed to rewire us so that we want to
addictive.
We want to be in that space.
Yeah.
And you have to be very careful about giving yourself up to that space, and also looking for the validation or adulation that you might receive from people by posting something. And then if you start anticipating that, that could be dangerous too when it dries up, you know. So I think, you know, in my life, I try and keep my focus on my work and on my family and my friends, and trying to do the best I can do. But I don't really bask too much in the accoutrements of it all, you know. So I'm not typically the person out, you know, posting photos of Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2 billboards or the side of a building on my Instagram, although it's tempting. But then again, I just think that's just going to make somebody feel shitty.
Yeah, you think so?
Yeah. Maybe. I don't know. But
is that their problem or your problem if they feel shitty because they put up a...
Well, it's obviously their problem, but I don't want to contribute to doubling down on it. I mean, sometimes people are in a place in their life where they can't see clearly, and we've all been there. So I think that it's just best to be a little bit more measured about things. So the things that go on my social media are all posted by an associate of mine, because I don't want to make emotional posts.
Sure. And Deborah's similar. Deborah's very similar.
Yeah, and you know what? I work under an NDA on everything, so I'm afraid to even...
Yeah, right. Get in trouble.
Oh my God. I took a photo once at the end of an interview in my studio and didn't realize that there was a frame of a picture of a show up on my screen. You know, I'm like, So, you know, you have to be very, very careful. Wow. And it's really interesting too, you know, working on properties owned by, say, Marvel or Disney or Fox or whatever. The security protocol is incredible. Yeah. Like, I mean, they basically send the FBI over to your place to check you out and see what your data management protocol is, and to make sure that you're aware of every possible way someone can gain access to sensitive material you have. So it's good because it reminds you to be very mindful about not only the material you're handling, but what you say about it as well. Yeah. It's very easy, you know, to say something. So like, you know, James Gunn is masterful with his use of social media.
Yeah, right. He's all over it.
Yeah. It freaks me out. First off, to even open the door to invite so many comments, even if they're positive, I don't.
He interacts with his...
Yeah, I'm not that person.
Yeah.
And I learn things about the movie if someone makes one of his posts known to me. You know, I just don't. I can't follow it all. You know, I can't check it all. I just have to focus on.
I feel like
music.
That's a lot like Deborah, and I feel like Deborah's mind is already going all the time. That if she follows James Gunn's Twitter and reads his things, it's like it's too much, because there's already so much in her mind. You know what I'm saying?
Well, she also has to be mindful not to go and read anything on what she's doing. I mean, she can have a manager or an agent who will do that sort of research to see if there's any interesting information or if they need to address any issues that are being created by someone in the public. But, you know, one comment can get in your head and destroy your confidence or your approach. Mm. So I don't really open myself to that. I mean, I'm pretty weather tested. I get a lot of opinions and I have to respond to them in a positive fashion. You know, no one's happy to have to rewrite something or whatever, but if there's a great idea and you know that it's going to lead to a greater overall score or something, that's cool. But, you know, opening yourself up to public criticism or opinions because you're putting stuff out there, for me, is just not something I'm interested in or really up for. So I have other stuff to do.
Sure.
I mean, it's not that I'm not putting it down. It's just like I'm not that person. Some people are really good at it or into it. I'm just not that guy.
Are your kids following your footsteps in music or anything like that?
Oh, they're both very musical. You know, my older one, you know, she was in the orchestra playing on Guardians 2 at Abbey Road. She was the
really?
She was the pianist on the session.
That's awesome.
She's multi-instrumentalist, singer, songwriter. Oh. She's 15.
I'm very proud.
I was happy for her.
Yeah.
I mean, proud is a strange word. You know, a friend of mine brought it up and we discussed it. And he's like, you know, being proud of someone, then it's a statement of ownership in a way of their experience. And, you know, I can understand what he's saying. I'm not so literal about it. Of course, I'm proud of my kids. They're, you know, I love them, you know, more than anything. So I'm happy for her because at 15, you know, I was playing guitar and stuff, but I hadn't done it much except shovel a bunch of horse shit, you know, do my best to learn Randy Rhoads guitar solos, you know, and, you know, that kind of stuff. But I think it's pretty cool. Neither of them want to do what I would do.
Yeah.
No. But I think there's no doubt they both want to perform in one facet of music or art. Mm-hmm. You know, they're both, you know, I mean, I think part of that might be they really got the bug when I was with Manson on tour in Australia, and a good friend of our family lives down there, and he and his wife carved out a week to hang out with my wife and the girls and take them around everywhere cool in around Sydney and whatnot. So I was going through the whole country, you know, with Manson and the tour and stuff, but we came back around to Sydney twice, and so one of the shows was a outdoor festival, and so they showed up right before we played, so someone drove them to the stage, and they came backstage. They came to the stage from the backstage area, so they were never even in the crowd that day beforehand. And so I had just gotten up there, and I'm standing there with Paul, who is the other guitar player, and he's a good friend of mine. And, you know, we're standing there with all of our shit on our face, you know, the makeup. And,
right.
And so we're about ready to go on and doing a shot of Jameson or something. And so right then the girls and my friends show up, like, I don't know, 4 minutes before we're going to play. And there's a curtain on the stage. And so my older one, she's like, so you playing what, right out that way? I'm like, yeah. She's, can I go look? I'm like, sure. And so, you know, I hadn't even looked. So she came back a second later and she's, so you're going to play right out there, yeah? And I'm like, yeah. This is anyone out there? Because it had been thundering and lightning and storming, and they almost they canceled the show for 15 minutes. And then they said, no, we're playing again. So it was crazy weather. And I said, so are there people out there? She looked like she'd seen a ghost. She said, yeah, there's a lot of people out there. There are a lot of people out there. So I'm like, all right, well, that's good. That'll be fun then. She's like, and you're going to go play in front of all those people? I'm like, yeah, the more the better. So they stood on the side of the stage. It was so funny, too. So the show's pretty violent, you know, just fun, you know, just
theatrical.
Stuff's thrown, you know, Manson's breaking stuff.
Is he still cutting himself?
Oh, yeah. Totally. So what? And I find it funny, you know, not, you know, just because I know him so well, you know, and he's just being, you know, I don't know, he's amused. Let's just put it that way. He's amused. So anyway, we're playing, and it's not quite dark, and there's a ton of people out there, and several girls got on the shoulders of guys and tore their tops off.
Sure.
Totally
Classic.
Totally naked on top.
Right.
Like, who knows where their shirts went, but they weren't holding on to them. So my daughters are like, you know, 20 feet, 15 feet over to my right, you know, by the guitar tech.
Right.
And they're watching this, and people are going nuts. And then toward the very end of the show, Manson comes out and with like black makeup on his face.
Terrifying.
Yeah, black makeup on his face, and then he's at the microphone and he starts cutting the top of his hand or something like that, and he looks over toward me, looks past me, and sees my girls, you know, and he obviously knows them from being over at our house a million times. So anyway, so we finished playing probably Beautiful People, I guess. He jumps down in the crowd. People are literally like grabbing his hand and like smearing his blood on their face, and he smears his black makeup face all over their faces as he walks by them in front of the security barrier. It's so funny. It's hilarious. So then, we hit the last chord of the song, and I chucked my guitar across the stage, which was fun to do once in a while, And although I broke the wrong one a couple of times, and that like bummed me out because
get caught up in it.
Some guitars are just so good to play, and then it's like, oh, I just broke the headstock off of that. But so anyway, we get in these vans and go back to where the dressing rooms are. They're essentially trailers, And this is like a big tour with Slipknot and Judas Priest and Smashing Pumpkins and Slash, and it was massive.
It's like a festival or something.
Yeah. And so it was funny because over that 2 weeks in Australia, it seemed like someone from every band tracked me down. They're like, I want to do what you do for a living.
Oh, yeah.
So sure. It's pretty funny because they have no idea of how insanely hard it is. I mean, it's so challenging. It's like, to me, like, it's fun to go out on tour.
Yeah. That's a break, right?
It's not working. It's the only time I know that I'll take time and sleep.
Yep.
And get some real exercise.
And you play for 2 hours in front of tens of thousands of people.
It's
Throw
fun.
your guitar.
Yeah, it's super fun. And so anyway, we're getting out of the vans back by the dressing area. And Manson gets out of his, and he's like, Tyler. And so now, if he calls me Tyler and not Tyler Bates, because he always like, Tyler Bates. or it's usually, hey, what's up, brother? So anyway, he's like, Tyler, and his eyes are wide. He says, I did not know that your girls were standing over there. And I'm there cutting myself. I started laughing. He's like, I'm there cutting myself, and the little one looks at me, her eyes are bulging up. I'm like, it's not every day my kids see an adult inflict a wound upon themselves, such as yourself. I said, but they know you're a performance artist, so just after you cool off, maybe come out and just say hey, and they'll just see that you are in a different state of mind. So of course, like 15-20 minutes later, he's out there, and and they're just looking at him like freak.
Well, and you said 15 is one of them.
Yeah, now she's 15. The other one's nearly 13. The 15's almost 16. I mean, it's just going. It's clipping by. That's movies.
Scary?
Oh, it's awesome and scary.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a tremendous experience. I just don't know how to explain it. It's the greatest thing ever.
Yeah.
But I'm lucky because I have an excellent partner who compensates for my lapses. I mean, I'm always there, in spirit, but
you work a lot.
I work a lot.
Yeah, so
I work a lot, and then
miss you and stuff, right?
I don't know if they miss me, but I go out I tour too.
Yeah.
But they make it pretty easy for me to tour. They do whatever they can to accommodate me to go out and play. So that's cool. So I sometimes I'll go for 3.5 weeks or something at a stretch, and if then I'll fly my wife in for maybe a cool city or something, or where she has friends. She might come and see a show. But
and the kids stay.
They're busy.
Yeah.
My grandparents live very close by too. They moved. They moved from Jersey too. So we have a whole West Coast thing. My wife's sister lives out here, and she has.
You get along with everybody?
Oh, yeah,
everybody gets along pretty good?
Yeah, it's great.
That's nice.
So we have a great family network, let's say, and then they're very supportive of helping pick up the slack. With my wife in school, I go out on tour, so the grandparents, they're cool.
Do you bring the kids to the premieres? Like Guardians?
You know what? This Guardians Volume 2 is the only premiere I've ever gotten enough tickets to bring my kids to.
Oh, really?
Yeah. It's the first time ever.
Did they have fun?
Yeah, they had fun. And I think it was cool for them, and I think it was probably pretty intense for my older one, who was, she played piano in the orchestra. So,
right.
That's the most emotional and clear music in the movie. It's not typically battling too much sound design and stuff, gunshots and whatever. So that stuff really, really sang in the mix, and I imagine that had to be pretty intense, right?
Did she talk about it?
A little bit. She's pretty quiet and humble.
Yeah.
You know, immediately after the sessions in London, she's like, oh, now that I did it, I know how I could do so much better.
Yeah, like father, like daughter.
Like, well, don't drive yourself too nuts, but I think, you know, it was cool. I mean, it's got to be very strange. You know, it's even strange for me to go do the red carpet walk and all that. I'm not really into that stuff.
Yeah.
But it's cool to go to a celebration of that scale of something that you're part of, you know. Yeah. So I would imagine being 15 at the premiere in the audience, and you're playing some, it's simple but very emotional music that you know the audience is feeling because you feel it.
Yeah.
You can't help it. That's got to be pretty crazy for a movie that pretty much anybody on the planet knows is out there. So that's kind of cool. But I mean, she earned the job. I mean, she can play the hell out of anything I can write for sure.
That's awesome.
So yeah, that's good.
I imagine you'll do part 3, volume 3. I assume.
That's we've already discussed it, and I know James is writing something, so that would be terrific. You know, it's Hollywood, so
anything can happen.
Anything can happen. I just take it as it comes and just do the best I can with what I have to focus on right now.
Your current house, is it haunted?
No. And you know,
Sure.
You know what's crazy? So when I was in Pet, we went to Ireland to Tori Amos's castle to record.
Wow, how's that happen?
Oh, just in some convoluted way. She saw our band play when she was in town for the Grammys or something, and so she came to a club and saw us play, and she's like, "You have got to make a fucking record right now." And we were just about to sign to Atlantic.
Wow.
With the president of the label was signing us, and then she wanted to be involved with us, and
like a manager or something, producer, something like that.
We were the impetus for her to create an imprint label on Atlantic Records, and in retrospect, it was not a good game plan for the band, because essentially we then had no true A&R in LA.
Okay.
You know, because we made the record over there, you know, on our own. No one was there except us. And, you know, Tori was there part of the time. You know, she's a very busy woman, so she was out promoting a new record she had just made. And she was great host and great supporter of the band, great champion of what we were doing. But anyway, I was cutting guitar tracks there in the basement. And we were having dinner one night, and she was telling me how in the basement in the 1800s there was a doctor who was giving abortions in that basement. Mm. It's creepy because the is all stone and very gothic and rough honed. You know, it was not like a den. It was like a chamber. You know, it was pretty gnarly.
Dungeon.
Mm-hmm. And so you know, everyone else was another 2 stories or 3 stories higher than where I was. You know, when we were recording. So I was just down there, and I didn't feel anything. Like, there was no supernatural energy. And I've been other places where I have detected it. So it's funny because when we sold that house that I lived in, it was vacant. And just as we were about to close the deal, the house was vacant. And I brought a girlfriend over there she didn't know anything about the house.
The one in Chicago.
Yeah.
Is that what you mean?
Yeah. I just started dating this girl. I said, I got to stop by this house. This is the last time I'm going, you know, just need to just check, make sure I have everything, you know.
Yeah.
And that was kind of heavy. But she came into the house, and after about 30 seconds, she started like hyperventilating. And I didn't tell her anything about this place.
Yeah.
It was too soon to get into this, right? And I had to carry her out of there. She says, I don't know what it is, but my lungs just filled up with the coldest air and I couldn't breathe. So I don't know what the deal is. That place has got a vibe to it that just freaked me out. I'm like, yeah, it's totally fucked up. But we've had like some serious incidents that happened over the years there that just you can't deny
Can you mention one or two?
Oh, just one example. We had these neighbors we had like 4.5 acres, and they had a few acres, and so we lived perched on the top of this hill, and they were sort of in the valley. This is way out in the country, so it's all forested, Okay. And so our next door neighbors were Rudy and Judy. So Rudy,
it's cute.
Rudy was Czechoslovakian.
Okay.
He basically came over to America on a tour and never got back on the bus to go home. And then Judy was very nice, but she had burned all of her Beatles records, and she was reborn.
Oh, I see. I see.
And actually, when I got my first kick-ass guitar amp, I took it outside because there's no one around. I started playing something, Crazy Train or something like that. She literally walked up the hill in her dress, like kind of holding each of her elbows, just calmly, and she says, "You're playing the chord of the devil." And I just looked at her and I said, "Cool." But so
hell yeah,
yeah, we went on it was F sharp, so F sharp minor. So anyway, we went on a family vacation, so we drove out to the East Coast, and one of my closest friends' older brother, they lived on a riding stable. They boarded like 50 horses. And we're still good friends. This is from when I was little. But so anyway, the oldest one was going to come take care of our horses. Very familiar with the property, knew all about the house, everything. He'd been there a million times. Because we were the only people each other had, because we were out in the middle of nowhere. So then Rudy and Judy were looking after the actual house. So apparently we were gone one night, and they were awakened by loud music coming from the house, super loud. And so Rudy got up, looks up the hill, all the lights are on at the house, like 3 a.m. And
it's empty, right?
We're on vacation.
You're on vacation, yeah, so it's empty.
No one's in there, right?
Yeah.
And, so anyway, he grabs his shotgun.
Right.
Goes up the hill, goes to open the front door, it's locked. No, he doesn't see anyone. The lights are on, the music's jamming. He unlocks the door with the key, and as soon as he opens the door, it goes black and silent. And so when we got back, because Steve, our friend who was watching the horses, was obviously very, we hung out all the time, and he wasn't religious or anything. He was a teenager at the time anyway, and he said, yeah, some very weird stuff was happening while I was gone. Every day, all the horse tack was tied and knots, and the grain room was always opened, and the lights were on, and nobody was like messing with the place because it was too far out there to even mess with it.
Right.
Like you couldn't even. There was no prank to show off. Like if you were going to TP someone's house in a neighborhood, then you say, right. "Oh yeah, look, we did that." I never did that, by the way, to anybody. But so then about a week after we got back, then Rudy and Judy had a talk with my parents and shared that with them, and. Because she was so freaked out. She was just convinced
the devil.
They lived next door to the devil.
The devil. He played the music. You summoned the devil.
I know.
See what you did?
I did. And bring it. I think it's hilarious. But
that's pretty funny.
No, but I mean, there are literally.
Do you believe in ghosts? Are you a believer?
I would not if I had not experienced this. It's just too crazy to.
Oh, that's.
And we had people living at our house. We were like a halfway house. Not random people, but people we'd meet who were in transitions. My mom would always take them in.
She sounds like a sweet woman.
Oh, she was awesome. So we had a loft room that she would give to people, just friends, whatever, and everybody had these experiences. People working on the house had like very distinct experiences. I mean, one guy broke his arm because he was pushed off the roof. My uncle was punched in the face a couple of times in the dark. Completely like punched in the face, and he was a real badass, sort of a Charles Bronson Vietnam vet, martial artist. He was not like a soft, timid person.
Yeah.
But yeah, a lot of crazy things happened, and it became sort of the norm. So the first year we lived there, my mom thought she was going nuts because she would constantly misplace things, but. We'd find her watch in the dishwasher and things like that. So we all thought we were going nuts. And eventually, through learning more and more about the house and having different psychics to the house, everyone picked up on it. And
the psychics did too and stuff?
Same origin in the house too. The same like epicenter of where it was stemming from. It was very interesting. I mean, was scary as hell, but it was also interesting.
Yeah, how do you sleep at night? Do you just
my mom was intrigued. I never went to sleep without a television on. I had this black and white RCA TV, this little 12-inch TV, and that thing was on every night from the time I was like 10 till 16 or something, 17. Yeah.
Were you while living in that house? Were you able to like watch scary movies and stuff, or were you like, I can't even think like that?
I don't know. I did go see Halloween, and that messed me up. Oh my god, it just messed me up. I was 12 or something, 12 I think maybe at the time, and we would find ourselves eating dinner later at night. Just so by the time we finished, it was dark.
Yep.
And so the trash cans were stored in this shed near the edge of the property. So it was probably realistically about 40 yards from the house. Mm-hmm. And there's an old wood shed, and we had to lock it up with a padlock because otherwise the raccoons would get in and tear up the garbage. And so if the trash was full after dinner, my dad would say, take out the trash, and you couldn't like stash it around the corner and because the raccoons would get in there and just tear it up and be all over the yard, and then I'd get my ass kicked. Yeah. So, I had to do it. So I would have to go out there. And after I saw Halloween, I was so freaked out. So I'm taking the trash out. And I remember I'm out there fumbling with the lock, trying to unlock it. And around the corner from the shed is like our fence, which is, is against the fence is all forest. And I think, I'm sure Michael Myers is going to appear at any second. And so, honestly, this sounds so crazy. With the
fucking William Shatner mask.
Totally, right? I never had any idea that I'd end up writing music to one of those movies, too. Yeah, that's hilarious. So but so, anyway, I struggle with the lock. I pull the door open, and it's like scraping on the ground. It's just not easy, you know what I mean? And there's a window inside the shed. And from the left from a previous owner to the previous owner was an old scythe that's hanging up on hooks in there.
Jesus.
It's just a storage shed.
Like Rob Zombie's house.
Yeah, Rob's house.
He loved that house.
When he had a place here, it was cool. It's like a horror museum almost. But so anyway, yeah, you see like the moonlight coming through this window, and there's this scythe blade hanging down. I'm like, shit. And so I just put the trash in the can. I lock that thing up and run as fast as I can, to seek refuge in that haunted house.
Yeah.
Because I was afraid, of the axe murderer out by the shed.
Sounds like a movie.
It was funny. I mean, in retrospect, it's funny. I mean, that's like nothing, compared to some of the things that I experienced. It's just too much.
You're saving it for the book.
Yeah, but it's all good. I think I have a pretty healthy perspective on it at this point, and I'm appreciative of all the experiences I've had because you can't change them.
That's true. So, you ever do therapy? You ever go to therapy or anything?
No, I went with a couple different girls once or twice, which only was a means to break up.
Right.
No. But I have friends, people that are just close to me in my life that have gone through things, and we can speak very openly and about pretty heavy stuff and kind of just take the lead out of all of it, and through doing that, it's, all this stuff is about moving on. Going to therapy is just about moving on.
That's true.
And the only way to move on is to sort out your shit. So if you keep behaving in a way that keeps you, bringing you back to this same juncture in your life, then you need to change your behavior. That's what therapy is there for. It's there not just to, console you. It's there to say, hey, you might want to take a look at this because everything you're saying to me indicates that you need to address this behavior.
Right.
So we have to do it whether we pay for a therapist to guide us through that or we do the work on our own, but I'm very aware of what's going on in my life and I have some people close to me who will tell me to, get my shit together or whatever is necessary if I get stuck in the mud for a minute, So, I mean, I think that's important, is to have, people in your life who hold you accountable to being, the best you can be. Mm-hmm. Not perfect, but the best you can be. And, or at least who encourage you to do that, know.
I saw an interview with you, and you talked about your studio is very relaxing. Right? Is that true?
It's organized.
It's organized.
Well. Yeah.
There's like trees. You see trees. Mm-hmm. That's smart. I thought that was interesting to have like a workplace that's neat and calming.
It's a beautiful casket.
That's Marilyn's next album title. Beautiful casket.
Well, this one is Heaven Upside Down. And it's awesome. I'm so excited for people to hear this music.
When's that come out?
They haven't announced the release date. Okay. I know what it is.
Okay.
If you're a super smart person, I bet you could guess what the release date is this year. But we're gonna drop. I think there's gonna be a song coming out soon. Yeah. So
because you worked on with him on the last album a couple years ago, Pale Emperor, right?
Yeah, we just do it in my studio, just the two of us. That's it.
Just the two of you? No kidding.
Yeah.
Huh. And do you play all the instruments or something?
Yeah, and Gil comes in and plays drums to the tracks at the end. Oh, and then I work that in, and it's more like sculpting in a way. It's not like the band going into the studio and cutting tracks. It's developed in a different way, more like you would write a film, in a way.
Okay.
That's really what it's about. It's more about conversation, and it's about kind of exploring what's going on with each of us. And usually he does all the talking, and I interpret, and then it encourages me on the spot to write the music, and we just start doing it.
Do you also write lyrics?
No.
Okay, he's lyrics.
Yeah, I mean, I've written lyrics in the past, but clearly no one's paid for them. So we should leave that up to him.
All right.
Or James Gunn, who wrote some excellent lyrics for Hasselhoff to sing in the Guardians Inferno song.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
That's funny.
Yeah, I didn't know that. Sometimes, you get so crazed that you got to remind yourself to just take a breath and enjoy this moment. So somehow in my life, doing the Guardians movies, I find myself in the studio with James, and I've written this disco track that is the Guardians of the Galaxy theme. And then James said, "Hey, I think I want to write some words to that." And I'm like, "Okay, who's going to sing?" He says, "David Hasselhoff."
He's huge in Germany.
And I'm like, "You're sure that's going to happen?" He says, "Well, I'm going to talk to him." So sure enough, he did. And so James sent me the lyrics basically in a voice text. And I sang a guide vocal. Hasselhoff came, and we cut the tracks. And he's very, very cool.
Hasselhoff?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I really like him a lot.
Did he do the Hoff? Did he talk in his Hoff language? Because he says Hoff like in every
Oh, you mean
sentence.
in the third person?
Yeah, yeah.
He did, but in a funny way. I mean, he seems to be very well aware of who he is, and I found him to be very pleasant to be around and very easy to work with.
Yeah, man, Knight Rider.
Yeah, Knight Rider is awesome. But so anyway, it's like one day it's like I'm doing that. You know what I mean? I'm recording this disco track that it's not even really been released. I know it's on the soundtrack album, but it will come into play at some point in this Guardians story, this odyssey that is Guardians. But at any rate, it's fun, and to be in the conduit for that. Like James wrote these lyrics, and he's doing that knowing David Hasselhoff's going to sing this to this song that belongs to his movie. It's cool to be just kind of the conduit for all that to happen. And, I don't need a light shined on me for that, but to be there for the moment is cool. Like, I don't really ever post anything online about what goes on in my studio.
Sure.
Every day there's something totally interesting, but I think it's kind of sacred. So I want people that I collaborate with, artists, whatever. I want them to feel comfortable knowing that what we talk about, what we do, how we work, it all stays in there. You know, I mean, sure, I can share an anecdote here and there. You know, I mean, I've had so many interesting people in my studio over the years. Sure. You know, William Friedkin, amazing. That was crazy challenging. Yeah, that was daunting as hell. But he was great, and we forged a really awesome relationship through working on Killer Joe together. You know, Manson is like, this is my favorite room in the world. He says, I've never felt more safe to create music anywhere but here, or than here. You know,
you get a lot of compliments in terms of people just wanting to work with you over and over again. I feel like that's very complimentary to your work and who you are.
I hope so. I mean, all of us as composers, we really hope for that, because we do. I mean, nobody's doing this stuff and not killing themselves. I mean, you can argue whether one person's more in it for the art as opposed to the whatever, money, celebrity, I don't know what it is, but there's nobody that you really know of, you've heard of, who's breezing through this. It's too hard. It's too difficult to even get a job. Just even the most entry-level job as a composer, to be commissioned to write music for anything is very, very difficult to get. So when you're doing anything that's highly visible, it's so hard to get through it successfully. You gotta lay it all out there, no matter what.
And you're doing that. It's paying off.
Well, I hope so. You know, I mean, I've really come to know some really great people through my experiences, and that's what I'm asking for with the universe. I want people who are going to engage a part of me that needs to be exercised, you know. So yeah, working with Marilyn Manson is totally different than working with James Gunn and Chad Stahelski, John Wick. He's in the middle of the two.
I love that movie.
I love Chad. He's a stunt guy, a fight guy. You know, he's a team Matrix guy. Yeah, he was Keanu's double. Yeah, he and David Leitch were in 300, and they did all the training of the actors and the stunts and the fight training and all that. But they work as a team. So even though they may quarterback the team, it's team, you know. And
I like the football reference.
Yeah, that's very good. And so being part of that is awesome, or being part of developing a pitch for somebody is awesome, especially when it happens and their movie gets made. You know, like I did that working with Rob Zombie on Halloween, and it went his way, and we got to work on that one. You know, we did a few movies, but that was cool. That was a great moment. He called me up and he says, "Man, that was just the greatest meeting I think I ever had." And, you know, I'd done the theme and the sound that I had started creating for Rob and Devil's Rejects, you know, but just kind of carried it forward into the Halloween realm because there wasn't a movie yet. There was just this really disturbing lookbook that he put together of photos and art and stuff. And, you know, so I guess produced a version of that theme based on his inspirational materials, and that was enough to get them to shake hands with him, and we did the movie. So it was cool to, I mean, obviously they know Rob's smart and very talented, and so they weren't going to hire him if he wasn't. But the theme, he said, was what really did it. He said when I played it, they just smiled.
That's awesome.
Yeah, so that was cool. So to be part of that, I was really, you know, appreciative of.
Have you ever thought about directing or doing any stuff like that?
I have a couple things that I'm working on, not directing right now, but there are a couple things that don't look exactly like what I do now, which is still pretty. Like, I'm not exhausted on what I'm doing now. Like I love television. So I'm really enjoying
like doing the Punisher.
And Punisher is sick, man.
Can't wait.
Oh God, I think people are gonna love that show.
I guess you've seen all the episodes.
I have.
Yeah.
You want me to tell you how it ends?
Yes. No, of course not. My girlfriend hasn't even told me. She hasn't even told me. Okay.
That's because if she even utters the words,
I know.
someone from the Marvel universe is listening to your every word through your electronic devices will appear at your door.
I believe it.
They will put her out. No, I'm kidding. I'm kidding about Marvel, not...
Marvel's great. We love Marvel.
No, I do. I mean, I'm very fortunate that I've had the opportunity to work with them. And Steve Lightfoot, who's the showrunner on that show, is amazing. Really does a great job at making everybody feel great in their contribution to the show. So, you want to give it everything you have.
Seems like a nice guy. I just met him briefly at that bar that we met at.
Yeah, he's great. And also, the Guardians team and the execs at Marvel, they're cool too. I think they've definitely... I've become better at my craft from having done it. So I'm happy for that. I mean, I want to one day do something that's great, and I have a long way to go till maybe that is, but you got to go through this stuff. And if you're lucky enough to encounter the right collaborators who know how to push you because they know there's something in there, some potential in there that needs to be activated, then it's good. It's exhausting as hell and you think you're going to die, but when you're done with that process, going through those, you feel you're stronger, or you feel like you're better, and you have more perspective on how to approach your craft. So, I'm into that, for sure.
And so I guess you work on multiple things at once.
Well, you have to, because the schedules they never stick. And then, as composers, the way our deals are structured, in movies it's
a movie could take a year or two to do the whole thing.
It's not like you're on a salary, and it's not, I mean, it can be very risky doing movies. You don't really know what you're going to make on a movie a lot of the time. So they can go into a pause where maybe a director wants to do some reshoots and the studio isn't sure they want to pay for them, and it might take them 6 months to determine whether or not they're going to do that. So then what do? You know that you are obligated to come back and finish the movie, but they're coming back right on top of something else. And then if you don't have anything to do during that 6 months where you're not working, you're not even going to be able to afford to be in business to do work at that scale. You sometimes, but the way it works out financially, you have to carry some debt sometimes to get from one point to the next, just in some gaps, depending on the movie, what the whole schedule of payments are and things like that. So, it's certainly not a complaint, but I'm just saying that in order to do it, to be able to work on big movies, you got to have stuff going on.
Yeah.
And you need a little bit of help, but I don't get it. I don't spread myself so thin that I'm not an artist anymore. I mean, I'm 100% interested in living my life as an artist. That's number one for me. I don't give a shit about whatever celebrity or anything like that. Right. As long as I earn enough to take care of my family and I can write music, I'm good. And I live a nice life. I'm thankful for that. I have to stay on the treadmill to do it, but I'm just appreciative of the experiences I've had. Every movie, every TV show, every episode brings about some experience. It brings about some story that is part of your life now. And I think that's really fascinating and keeps me interested in what I'm doing, every day. There's something that's going to happen that's going to be interesting.
Well, I want to thank you for being here.
Sure.
Thank you so much.
My pleasure.
Do you want to plug anything? I know you're not active online, but I know you have a website, tylerbiggs.com. It's a pretty good website. By the way.
I would just say you've seen movie trailers, right? And you think, all right, that looks cool. The second trailer comes out and you're like, yeah, I've probably seen the movie now.
Yeah.
Don't think that with Atomic Blonde. That movie is so good.
What is that?
That's a Charlize Theron movie. It comes out July 28th.
And you did that?
Yeah, David Leitch, who co-directed the first John Wick, directed this.
Oh, okay.
And it's stellar. I mean, it's super, super entertaining.
I love her.
Very stylish. Yeah, it's really, really...
Did you get to meet her?
Yeah, she's super cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. It's very cool. But just, again, a great group of people, you know, very intelligent people who are awesome to work with. So that's definitely a movie that I highly recommend to anybody who wants to be entertained.
What about video games? Any video games you want to plug out there that you've worked on?
No, I haven't done any games in quite some time, actually. You know, it's just, I'm busy, man. I mean, I'm thrilled to have done the Guardians of the Galaxy ride. Talk about surreal.
Oh, you did the ride too?
Oh my God. That was so surreal.
Did you go on the ride?
Yeah. You have to go on the ride to write the music for it.
Wow.
So you understand how it all works.
So you go on before it's open to the public.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah, that is so weird. I mean, seriously, that is an abstract assignment in my life.
Now, is it just you, like, alone, or is there some other people with you taking the ride? Because there's
they take
20 people at once. Right, or something.
Yeah, and even when we're testing it, it's a bunch of us because everybody's looking at different details and whatever. So you go a few times, and that's about.
Is it a fun ride?
Oh yeah,
yeah. It's
great. It's super fun, and it's dynamic so that it won't be exactly the same twice.
How many times did you go on?
Well, I went a couple weeks ago. I was at the premiere. I didn't go on at the premiere. I went, I think, 5 times a couple weeks ago, and then I went a few times before then.
Yeah, before you wrote it, you went on a few times.
Yeah, but I never did go on the Tower of Terror when it was the Tower of Terror because it's been converted from that into the Guardians of the Galaxy attraction.
Oh, is that what it is?
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't know that.
It's badass. Really fun. And the people that I work with on that are incredible. The Disney Imagineer crew. I mean, they're awesome.
So it just drops. Basically, it's just one of those dropping things.
It drops. It skyrockets you. It's awesome. It's really, it's pretty crazy because, you know, you go into these different environments that are Guardians environments. And then, you know, it'll just drop and you're in blackness. And then all of a sudden you're somewhere else. And it's pretty cool. And the music's cranking. And when you're... Anyway, I won't elaborate too much on it because I don't know what I'm at liberty to say, even though all the reviews are out there. So
yeah, it's open now, I think.
Yeah, there were 6 hours wait for it.
I heard
over the weekend.
That's fucking crazy.
Yeah, that's crazy. 6 hours.
You could watch both Guardians of the Galaxy movies in the time that it
while
takes,
you're in line.
While you're in line on your device.
See, I wonder if anyone. Well, obviously, someone could not watch the second one, but.
Yeah, right.
I would
just
not
put the first one on a loop and let everybody just watch in line. I mean, something.
Though being online is part of the experience.
Yeah.
Yeah, the way it's designed, it's pretty.
Really?
It's cool. Yeah.
Okay. I don't know.
Those people are smart.
Yeah, I'm sure they are.
Yeah, they just point me in a direction and make me look smart, but I just do what they ask me to do and try and have a good time with it, and it is.
And you're working on the next Emilio Estevez movie as well?
Yeah. He's doing a movie called The Public, and Emilio's been a good friend of mine for...
You worked with him before?
18 years we've been friends.
No kidding, wow.
Yeah, so whatever he does, if he wants me on board, I'm in. I'm just into it.
That's so awesome.
Yeah, so doing that, doing a few things. I just, I don't talk about everything because I'm not at liberty to speak about everything.
Right, or NDRs.
But yeah, I'm very excited to go out and play this new record.
Yeah, now when's that? You can't say when that's coming out. When do you guys start touring? Can you say that?
Yeah, the first tour date's July 2020th, and we're going to be playing it. I think it's in Helsinki or somewhere.
Okay, so you're out of here. You're
it's my version of a sabbatical. Go out and play with a shock rocker because if I'm at home, people get to me.
Home means responsibility, right?
Well, not just that. It's just that in the business, it's like even if I say I'm going to chill at my house for 3 weeks because I'm tired and I need to not be chained to my desk.
Yeah. Sure
enough, a few days into it, my agents will call. People will call. hey, I have this thing, and it's like, composers are so screwed up anyway. We're all kind of afraid to say no because we think that, we'll never get another job.
Right.
So
it's all freelance, basically.
Totally freelance. So people prey on that a little bit, and everybody just wants to get their thing done. And so, the thing that I do to clear my mind, at least in this last couple of years, has been touring. What
about when will you do LA? You gotta do LA, right?
Yeah, I know there's going to be an LA date, probably sometime in October, but I know we're playing in that big place in San Bernardino on November 7th.
Okay. I don't know that place.
It's where they hold all the huge concerts, Ozfest everywhere.
Okay.
So it's that San Miguel amphitheater, whatever.
Okay.
I remember seeing Slayer and Black Sabbath there, and there were like 10 fires in the audience at once. It was awesome.
Good times.
It was awesome. It wasn't that long ago.
Well, I hope I'm in town when you guys play LA. I'd love to come see you guys.
Yeah, that'd be great. It'd be great.
I haven't seen Marilyn Manson live in a long time. I forget, what was the place I saw him at? It was in LA. I forget the venue, though. I can't remember. But it was a hell of a show. My seats were shitty, so I'll get better seats this time.
yeah. I think it's a good time to see him because things are really coming back strong.
Yeah.
Right now, I think this is a really, really good record.
You're happy with it? It's all done, right? Or are you still tweaking it?
Yeah, we're just tweaking the one detail on one song.
Okay.
But it's done. It's killer.
You ever have Marilyn just sing in one of your like Guardians of the Galaxy, just like, because sometimes you have vocals of like, oh, does he ever do anything like that just for fun?
No, because you know what, his voice, you just know it's him. I know, you just know it's him. So no, but we have licensed songs we've written or arrangements of covers or whatever that we've done for several movies and TV shows, and it's just, I guess timing has been serendipitous. I started scoring Salem. I saw the titles literally a couple days before then. Manson and I had written Cupid Carries a Gun. I played it for the showrunner, not because I wanted to get the song licensed to the show. I honestly wasn't even thinking that. I was playing it to him to see if this is the vibe. And so I started playing it to him, and he says,
"No, I'll take it."
He's like, "Shit." I'm like, what? He says, "Is that Marilyn Manson?" I'm like, "Yeah." He says, "Oh, great." He says, "Well, we couldn't have that then. That's perfect." I said, "Well, if you really want it, I could probably arrange that. No problem." He says, "How so?" I said, "Because I wrote it with him. I produced it." He's like, "If you can make that happen, that would be incredible. Yeah. That's perfect. It's like we made the titles to that song."
That's amazing.
And
that's pretty cool.
So sure enough, the people who moved the papers and pens and stuff, they did their thing, and that became the title sequence. And then ultimately he was in the third season of the show.
He's a big actor. Big actor now.
Oh yeah. Yeah. I think it's cool.
Well, you did a little acting. Yeah, I saw you have an IMDb credit of you as a Ravager in Guardians 1.
Yeah, I was in John Wick 2 also.
Oh, you were? Okay, that's not up there.
Because I don't put this up there. I don't want to be an actor. I was just part of, in John Wick 2, I was just part of the avant-garde band that appears in the party there in Rome. And that was purely because Chad Stahelski, the director, could not find an extra to cast that he felt confident with. So we had to shoot 5 nights. They were all overnights. It was freezing cold. But it was cool. We had fun, and he's a great guy. And
did you get a paycheck for? I hope you got it.
Nope.
You didn't. You did that for free? That's not good. That's not good.
No,
you should have gotten your union card probably for that. Your SAG.
No kidding. You think people just say, "Hey, you know what? Thanks." Chad's cool. He has definitely shown his appreciation and gratitude for my undying commitment.
Will there be a John Wick 3?
I hope so.
I hope so.
I cannot say with 100% certainty.
All right.
or permissions.
I'm not going to force anything. Well, hey, man, thanks so much. I know you're a busy dude, and I appreciate you taking time out to talk with me at my kitchen
pleasure.
table.
Yeah, it's cool, EJ. I'm happy to do it.
Thanks, buddy. All right. Thanks so much. And
awesome.
Good luck with your tour.
All right. Thank you.
All right. And scene. There you go, folks. That was Tyler Bates. Thank you so much, Tyler, again for coming on and spending time with me. I really appreciate it, and I hope you had a good birthday a few days later. There you go. So one more time for my plugs. Follow me on Twitter at EJ Scott and the podcast at EJ Podcast. I have a website, ejscott.com. I have Instagram, ejscott1106. The CrowdRise page for the charities, crowdrise.com/7on7. Running Blind documentary on Google Play, iTunes, and Amazon. And I guess that's about it. I'm booking some really good guests, some upcoming guests. So subscribe on iTunes and iHeartRadio. You don't want to miss them. I guess that's about it. So thanks for listening. Check out my past podcasts. Check out my future ones. And we will see you next time.